Shalom and welcome to Zion Lex TV. Shalom and welcome to Zion Lex TV. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and share the live stream. Become a member of Zion Lex TV and unlock several hidden features and hidden videos. Also, you can donate to Zion Lex TV at Cash App $ZionLex or via PayPal at zionlex@gmail.com. We also have an online academy entitled Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. Visit us on patreon.com/learntorah. Our gold tier membership gives you unlimited access to our special event lectures and our special live movie nights. Our platinum tier gives you unlimited access to our Torah class, Kabbalah class, Patriarchs and Matriarchs of the Covenant classes, as well as understanding the New Testament via the oral tradition class. Our diamond tier gives you unlimited access to all of the previous tiers, as well as our most sought-after class, our Biblical Hebrew course. And finally, our highest tier, our Sapphire tier, gives you unlimited access to all previous tiers, as well as our highly esteemed rabbinical course. Be sure to sign up today and check your tier membership so as to ensure you're getting access to the classes you desire. Thank you for visiting us here at Zion Lex TV, and now back to our current live stream.
Shalom, shalom, family. This is your brother Avdiel Ben Levi, otherwise known as Zion Lex. Go to Amazon and purchase all of my books. Type in my author name, Avdiel Ben Levi, or you can also type in Zion Lex. There you'll find some of my earliest books and my latest works. It was written and engraved, The DNA of Sound, The Star of David Controversy, Ancient Kemet on Trial, Patriarchs of the Covenant, Matriarchs of the Covenant, and my two foremost books that are critically acclaimed on Amazon, and even one has become a bestseller, and that's going to be the Messiah Codex Volume 1 and Messiah Codex Volume 2. So go to Amazon.com today, type in my name, Avdiel Ben Levi, otherwise known as Zion Lex, and there you can purchase all of my books. Peace and shalom, family. All right. Shalom, 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 everyone. I pray all is well. I bid you all in the tongue of our ancient forefathers when I say shalom alechem. I want to first and foremost give all honor, give all praise to the Holy One of Israel, the power, the God of our ancient forefathers. We say the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yaakov. He is the great, mighty, and revered God, even the Most High God. He is our creator, our maker, our owner, and our possessor, and to him belongs the life of all worlds. I would like to duly acknowledge some very distinguished guests that I have. One of them is reoccurring. He happens to be a co-host on Torah Conversations, and that is Chief Rabbi Mordechai. I also would like to introduce, returning once again, our brother Ashriel Moore. Both of them, everyone, just a reminder, appearing live from Eretz Israel, the state of Israel. Shalom to you both. How you doing?
Shalom, big brother.
Shalom, shalom. How we doing?
All is well. All is well. So obviously we had a really great conversation. You know, we had a really, really great conversation that spilled over into today. And I think we have the moment in this environment right now to really act on, build on what we previously discussed. We're even bringing our brother Ashriel Moore, who has entered the chat, as they say, or entered the stage. And I know that this build is going to be a very enlightening build. I myself am looking forward to being edified and enlightened, as well as possibly sharing some words of edification and enlightenment among our brothers. I'm going to go in order of honor. And at Zion Lex TV, we always give distinguished honor to our guests that are newly appearing. Chief Rabbi, we're going to reserve that for now for him. It's usually him, but we're going to reserve that for Ashriel in this moment because he is our new guest, even though he's been here for a while. So Ashriel, could you open us up with any words? How you doing, brother? How's it been on your side?
Absolutely, my brother. As always, we always like to give honor, praises, and thanks to the God of our fathers, the one who continues to strengthen us, who continues to bring us through, and that one who continues to watch over us during these very challenging moments. But I'm doing good, my brother. I'm doing good. We are, as you all know, in the midst of a challenging time. But these are not times that we weren't built for, that we weren't prepared for. So these things are now just taking shape in a way that we didn't anticipate because we didn't know how things would actually unfold. But we did know that at one point or another we'll be right here in this position that we're in right now, at the least, confronting or in war with Iran. I mean, we knew this was something that was just going to be a matter of time, and now we're at that time, at that moment. So we're doing as good as we can do, in these current circumstances. But it was very important for me to get on, so that we can be able to actually build and share a perspective from the land with our brothers and sisters who I know, on one hand, are concerned about our safety and our security here in the land in the midst of everything that's happening right now. But then also to help them to conceptualize everything that's happening in this proper geopolitical context, because I know that there are a lot of things that we hear, that we read, but we don't really go into it as deep as we need to. Sometimes because these things are not as close to us as it is for me and the Rabbi for living here in Israel, And on the other hand, sometimes just because it's not anything that we see as important to really go deeper into. So I think it's going to be a great build for us to be able to really allow our people to be able to get a perspective from the land, straight, no chaser, so they can really be able to understand what's going on the ground. So happy to be back in the building with the brothers, and I'm always honored, to be in the building with giants like the both of you are. I mean, Chief Rabbi, More Hagado. I mean, I'm in good company, so I'm good.
All right. Says young Black Panther. All right. Being that you are entering the stage now, I'm going to start off with you. The current climate right now, that is hot globe world over, is the Iran-Israel conflict, i.e., war. What is your direct outlook of this war? More importantly, and obviously, for the vantage point of someone living in the land, my first question to you is: what started this war?
Murray, I think it's important for us to lay the foundation just so we can be able to understand, everything that's happening in its fullest context, so that when we go into what's happening now, we can be able to kind of follow everything as it has been developing over the years and how we reach the point that we're in right now. So initially, Israel and Iran had a pretty good relationship. When Israel was established in 1948, effectively in 1950, Iran was the first majority Muslim country to actually de facto recognize Israel. They did vote against the partition plan, but they still recognized Israel de facto. And they had a pretty good strategic relationship up until approximately 1979, when the Shah of Iran was overthrown. Now, up until that period of time, they, and the reason why they had a pretty strategic relationship was, first of all, because Iran was a majority Muslim country, but they're not an Arab country, right? These are Persians. And so they, as well as Israel, saw themselves as being surrounded by hostile Arab countries. And so that was one of the reasons that caused them to actually come together. They were also against the pan-Arabism, right? That Abdul Nasser was actually pushing in Egypt. So that was another reason for them to come together. Also, when we were talking about the separation between Soviet Russia or the Soviet Union and the United States, America was also looking to have strategic relationships in this area that was mostly pro the Soviets. And Iran was one of those countries that were actually within, that relationship: Israel, America, and Iran. Now, from 1979, when the Shah was overthrown and Imam Khomeini came into power, a few things changed in Iran. Number one, they took a very radical stance on Israel. because they didn't recognize Israel's rights to exist. They called it what is a Zionist entity that does not have the right to exist. Number two, they said that they were cutting all ties that were between Israel and Iran before. They now were going to cut all those ties. They no longer are interested in having a relationship with Israel. Then they took a staunch approach because Israel was mainly Jews. By them being or taking a radical Islamic approach to not only to Israel but to everybody in the region, everybody who they saw as not subscribing to the form of Islam as they subscribed to, they considered them infidels or traitors. And so it wasn't just Israel; it was also Saudi Arabia and other countries, because we know that that Iran is a Shiite country, and they don't really get along well with the Sunni Muslims, which is Saudi Arabia is mainly the Sunni side of Islam. And so they also started starting in the 1980s to export this idea of Islam, but through jihad, through al-harb, which is through the sword, through trying to coerce everybody to align themselves with the Islam that they had aligned themselves with coming into this new regime in 1979. They overturned a lot of things that were actually happening in Iran. So they had a very strict, up until now still, they have a very, very strict way of going about things. They have a very different approach to international affairs. And so all of these things then caused them to not only have issues with Israel, but also have issues with a lot of other countries in the region. But then in 1982, they started propping up, Hezbollah up in Lebanon. Then in 1987, they started propping up Hamas in Gaza. And then later on, they started propping up all of these militias in Syria, and then Iraq, and then later on the Houthis down in Yemen. So what they wanted to do effectively is they wanted to be the hegemonic power in this region. And the only power that was stopping them from being able to do so was Israel, because they saw Israel as actually stronger than them because they were being backed by America. And so they considered Israel as being the small Satan and America being the big Satan. So they went head on against Israel and against America. And so they started building these coalitions, or what we would actually call these the axis of terror, so that they can be able to continue to terrorize the region, because so long as the region is in turmoil, they will be the ones who will benefit more from that, because the more the region goes into turmoil, the more people become radicalized. The more people become radicalized, the more people actually join on, to their ideology. The more people join on to their ideology, the more they get a stronghold in a lot of other areas in the region. And so this was something they've been doing, tactically, so they can be able to put themselves in position to actually be the hegemon in the region. And starting in the early 2000s, where they had an interest, number one, of developing a nuclear plant, right? What they said initially, they were just going to be developing it for friendly purposes, but then later on, that mentality started changing. You had the president Ahmadinejad, who was very vocal, about wanting to erase Israel off the map. In 2005, he came in. He was very vocal about this, and so that started causing things then to escalate a little more. And so the desire that they had to actually get into this run for a nuclear weapon actually caused a lot of other states in the region also to become concerned. Mainly Israel, obviously, because they have been saying outwardly that they desire to wipe Israel off the map. So if they had these capabilities to be able to do so, then obviously they'll do so. But they've been operating through their proxies for a long period of time, propping up these organizations, funding them, giving them weaponry, and causing them to be the ones who actually, going head on with Israel, as opposed to Iran themselves coming into the fight. And only just last year did we have the first head-to-head fight, or head-to-head. I don't know what's to call it, because it really wasn't a war. They just exchanged a few hits, and then that was the end of it. But it really wasn't a war like that. So I would probably say, it was just a confrontation, so to speak. But from the moment of I would say October 7th of 2023, when Hamas attacked Israel, and then Hezbollah started launching rockets, and then the Houthis started launching rockets, and then the militias in Syria and in Egypt started launching rockets. All of these people were operating on behalf of Iran to be able to weaken Israel. And so as a consequence of that, at one point or another, Israel said that what they'll have to do is they'll have to go straight to the head of these proxies. And the foundation was laid over the last few months after the Assad regime was toppled in Syria, because now Israel had a direct way to Iran through the Syrian country. Number two, they absolutely weakened Hezbollah in the north, taking out Hassan Nasrallah and all of the top political and military leadership of that organization. We see that Yemen, or the Houthis in Yemen, are not as strong as they were before. All of those militias in Iraq and in Syria, they're no longer as strong as they were. And so now Iran is really left to themselves. So now, and Hamas obviously is continuing to fight in Gaza, but they're not as strong as they were beforehand. So now it's a head-on fight, a head-to-head, Israel with Iran. And so over the last few weeks, the IAEA, which is the institute that oversees the nuclear development, they put out a statement, or 20-page report, saying that Iran had not really been honest about what they've been doing, the development, a lot of the development of these nuclear reactors that they have for the purposes that they said that they were developing them for. They reached an enrichment of uranium up to 60%. 60% is just on the brink of being able to develop a nuclear weapon. And so, you get to 90%, now you have that ability to be able to do so. So effectively now they have the ability to at least develop a few hundreds of nuclear weapons. But not only that, they have some of the the most lethal ballistic missiles in the world. And so, these things have been a major concern for Israel. Now, when President Trump and Khamenei went into this negotiation about how we're going to move forward, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. At the same time, they should have the ability to be able to continue to enrich uranium at a low rate that will allow them to be able to use it for civil purposes as opposed to military purposes. They gave 60 days to be able to do so, and so Iran wasn't really interested in that, and Israel wasn't really too optimistic about what is going to happen going forward, because Iran had lied about it for a long period of time. And so it was just like, okay, what other options are there now? Do we wait around and see if they continue to enrich uranium, and then see if they take that enrichment of uranium and develop a nuclear weapon? Or do we try to prevent that with having a preemptive strike? And so Israel preemptively struck, believing that they don't have any other options. And so that's where we are now. We are in that stage now of the preemptive strikes, and then obviously Iran is retaliating. But all this has been developing, since 1979. So it's nothing that just happened out of the blue skies right now. And let me just make this last point, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Moray. Anybody who is not aware of the Israeli society would not know that everybody who is here is actually being affected by whatever decisions are made with Iran and other organizations and countries that do not believe in the establishment of the state of Israel, do not think that everybody who's here have the right to be here. And so when they're launching these ballistic missiles, whether it's Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, Iran, they're not launching them or trying to hit strategic military or political infrastructure, but they're just launching them into the heart of the cities, and wherever they land, that's where they land. So, it could very well, like I said, we were speaking earlier before we got on, just 5 minutes away from my house, missiles fell. We have friends, who were in another area where missiles fell, and these missiles don't discriminate. And within 5 days since the beginning of this war, you had Arabs who were killed in an Arab village. You had Israelis who've been killed. You had foreign nationals who've been killed. You have an Igbo brother who was injured. You have Bedouins in the south who don't have access to a safe room, who are pretty much vulnerable. You have our brothers and sisters in Dimona who are pretty much vulnerable because the houses as they're constructed, they don't have safe rooms within those houses, so they have to leave out to go to a safe room, and sometimes you don't have enough time to be able to do so. So all of these things, are playing a major part in our experience here in Israel, and so we're experiencing it for real on the grounds as it is, waking up at 12 o'clock and then waking up at 4 o'clock and then waking up at 5 o'clock and then probably in the afternoon. People who have children, you have to find some shelter somewhere. So we're experiencing this for real. So for us, it's not a joke. And for us, it's definitely not just, a conversation about possibilities about what's going on. This is our real life. And that's how we treat it.
All right. There's a lot that I want to say, and so I will. And then after having said that, you certainly have time to respond. And then we're going to hear from Chief Rabbi. So just standing as an outsider, someone living in America, and assuming in this moment the position of an arbitrator and a case being brought before me, and the question is asked, what inspired the conflict, the ongoing conflict? What is the origin of the conflict, right? And I'm hearing both parties represent their conflict, and both parties are saying, he started it, she started it, and this is how it happened. And he started it, she started it, and this is how it happened. And in hearing you, I certainly hear how Iran played a role, a major role at that, in this war. My question for you now is, what role does or did Israel play in provoking this war? Or do you not concede or believe at all that Israel played any role leading up to this whatsoever, that Israel is just on the defense and Israel did absolutely nothing? So before you answer, I want to make sure my question is clear, so I'll just restate it again. From what I gather from what you said, I'm hearing how Iran, from the outset, and thank you very much for taking us back in history and really giving us the history of that region and what's happening up until present day, from 1979 circa up until around present day. By the way, I'm born in 79. Having said that, though, what I'm hearing from you very clearly is Iran's responsibility in this war and their negative interactions as to why this war began. So my question now is, since you live in Israel and you would represent the eyes and ears of the masses of people that live there, like you said, for you, it's not what it is for us, a conversation. For you, this is your life. You live there. I want to know from you, what is Israel's role in this war? Meaning, did Israel do anything negatively to provoke this war at all? Or are you conceding that Israel is exclusively on the defense and there's nothing that Israel has done wrong?
So, in conflicts, things are always happening from both sides, from both ends, So I wouldn't say that, Israel is just hands clean. They haven't done anything. But what I would say is that looking at the history of it, prior to the revolution in 1979, Israel and Iran had a pretty good relationship, right? From 1950 up until 1979. So that entire period of time where they were, working strategically together, where they were exchanging, information, where Iran was the main provider of oil also to Israel. They were working, in harmony, basically. So if they were working pretty good for 20, 30 years, from 1950 up until 1979, all of those relationships are pretty good. When the revolution happened in Iran, that revolution affected those relationships. So effectively, Iran did not want to have anything to do with Israel at that point, primarily for two reasons. Number one, because Iran aligned themselves with what they considered the Palestinian struggle. So they wanted to support, their Palestinian brothers and sisters. The second thing is that Iran, like I said, have the desire to have the hegemonic, control in this region. And so as a result of that, they see Israel as being, part and parcel of that problem. Why? Because Iran say that they are what the resistance, right? What are they resisting basically? They're saying that they're resisting, this westernized ideology, right? That has crept into not only into Israel, but into the region, being affected by America, being affected by these Western powers. They were saying that the Shah was actually in the pocket of America. And so as a result of that, they were saying that these people, Israel, the Shah, all these other organizations that are aligned with the West, we have an issue, a fundamental issue with them because we see them as our enemy. Besides the fact that they're infidels, they don't represent nothing culturally that we represent. And so, that's something that we have to push back against. And so Israel also wants to maintain, I've always had a problem with that, right? Israel wants to maintain the representation of the West, right? Israel is not a Western, and it shouldn't be a Western country or a country that is simply being led by America, being led by the West, right? If we say that Israel is what it is, then it should represent something that's totally different from a lot of these Western liberal Western ideologies. But it doesn't. And so as a result of that, with them aligning themselves with the West, with them aligning themselves with the Euro-American ideas and ideology, not the people, but the political establishment, that then puts them in direct confrontation with anybody who has an issue with the West. Even if it's not our issue, that puts them in direct confrontation with the West. And so a lot of times, Israel represents the interests of America, of the West in this area. And a lot of times those interests collide with the interests of Arabs in the region, of Iran and others. And so in such, obviously, Israel wants to continue to maintain, those Western values and ideologies here in this region, where they really don't fit, as far as I'm concerned. And so that's something that could lead to some type of confrontation. But again, because I live in Israel, I have a lot of, I get a lot of backlash because a lot of things that we say that are not necessarily in alignment with how people would expect you to think being from Israel. But at the same time, just for me being honest and being in alignment with what our ideology is as Hebrew Israelites here in Israel, based on the foundation of what my teacher Ben Ami and others have taught us, there are a lot of things also that we have to look at both sides of them. But in the end, as far as I'm concerned, as far as we're concerned, if there is any power who is looking to absolutely destroy Israel, they're not looking to destroy Israel besides the African Hebrew Israelite community. Everybody else, yes, but the African Hebrew Israelite community, no. And so my position is that I am in opposition of any one of these organizations, states, whatever, who are looking to destroy Israel. So yes, we have problems with the political establishment. We have problems with the rabbinical establishment. We have problems with a lot of the policies of Israel, right? But at the same time, we can fight those things internally, but we can't fight rockets that are being launched from other places into the heart of neighborhoods that are not going to discriminate against us. So it's vast, right? But if you say put your hand on what caused, well, at times, Israel wouldn't agree to certain concessions that needed to be made for the Palestinians. At times, the Palestinians wouldn't agree to certain concessions, and then that leads to other things, and then that leads to others getting involved. And then when those others get involved, then Iran feel like they're the big brother in the neighborhood. So they're the ones who have to, jump to the rescue of their little brothers, these organizations, these proxies that they've propped up for their own purposes. So, Israel does have a role in it. But for the most part, as far as this current war is concerned, I would say that Israel did actually go on a defense in order to prevent Iran from being able to have a nuclear weapon that could potentially, whether it's true or not true. I'm not in the rooms with these people. So I don't know how close they are to developing a weapon. I don't know if they really desire to. I only know what they say outwardly. And they say outwardly that their desire is to actually destroy Israel. And so in such, obviously, I can understand, going on a preemptive strike, because you have to, I would expect the government to protect us. If the government is not there to protect us, or at the least to prevent that type of harm from coming to us, then I don't know what the job is.
Okay. I appreciate that. There's a lot that I want to say as well to that, but we're going to make sure we're having a balanced dialogue. So I'm also taking notes to ensure that I'm able to come back to various points that you guys make and respond to them neatly. And I expect that you guys should do the same thing. Rabbi Mordechai came off, so I guess I have a perfect opportunity to respond to at least one of your points. He'll be right back. He tends to have some issues with his live stream. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you is the two-state solution. Initially, what the West presented was this two-state solution, that there would be an Arab state and there would be an Israeli state. And the initial problem with that was received. Oh, there you go, Chief Rabbi. I see you. The initial problem with that was received on both ends. I'm just going to make one point, Chief Rabbi, and then we're going to bring you in. Just mute your mic. There you go. The initial problem.
He had a whole conversation yesterday. Yeah, right.
All right.
You can ask the questions. Yeah.
All right. So the initial problem that both Arab and Israeli leadership had with the two-state solution is how much land is being partitioned, right? Israelis were awarded 55% of the land, leaving the Palestinians with 45%. And as far as the Palestinians were concerned, yesterday we had 100%. So how do we get 45% today? So, I think everyone can understand that. And Israel, remarkably, the leadership in Israel at that time, their gripe was 55%, the majority stake, is still not enough. We want a bigger piece of the pie because we believe through tradition, through what we have learned, that this is the land of our ancestors and we want all of it. 55 ain't enough. We're missing 45%. So both sides initially rejected, but one side responded immediately with force of arms to take more land, and that was the Israeli leadership. They made a preemptive strike at that time on behalf of wanting more land. The Arabs voiced that they disliked the 45%, but they had not yet taken to arms. The Israeli leadership at that time took to arms and got more land before the British completely exited. So there's a lot that I'm gonna, develop and share in a couple of moments. But I just want to ask you, with that on the table and with that in mind, do you think, in your personal worldview, let me rephrase it a bit, because I actually want to know two things from you while I have you here. Do you support, and I know this could be very controversial for you to even have to answer, but I want to be real, right? Do you support a two-state solution? And also, do you believe that the current leadership in Israel is still in support of a two-state solution?
You said a mouthful there, right? And I love it. I love it, big bro. But let me just, again, I think it's always important for us to continue to bring the geopolitical and historical facts into play, because then that gives us a broader idea of what we're actually looking at. When the partition plan was offered in 1940, well, you had the Peel Commission, first of all, in 1937. That was beforehand. But then you also had, the Paris Convention in 1919. Now, the partition plan, though, in 1937, under the Peel Agreement, said that we were going to partition the land now in such a way where the areas that are majority Palestinian is going to remain for the Palestinian state. The areas that are majority Jewish is going to go towards the Jewish state. That was the initial plan. And remember, most of the big cities like Haifa, Jerusalem, Tzfat, Tiberias, these places were majority Jews. And the majority Jews who were there, these were people who had actually been there for a long period of time. But then even those people who had come in, starting in the first Aliyah, 1881, 82, a lot of them actually they bought land. They bought land under the Ottomans. They bought land under the British. They bought lands from the Arabs, right? And when the partition plan was actually offered, then what the Arabs were saying, because again they consider themselves Arabs, the idea of them being Palestinian didn't really come into play until way later on, in the 1960s. Because in their minds, they were saying that we don't want a partition in that's going to cause Palestine now to be separated from Syria, because it was called Syria-Palestina. Syria-Palestina was, and it also included Transjordan or Jordan, right? Until Jordan was also given a portion by the British under the Hashemites. Now, the Hashemites got this portion of the land, which is now Jordan, which is on the east side of the Jordan River. And that's why they call the area of Judea and Samaria the western, or what would they call it? The West Bank, right? Because it's on the western side of the Jordan River, western side of the bank, right? So they got a portion of the land. And when Israel actually, when the state of Israel was established in 1948, they went on, an offensive war. So it was Egypt, and it was Jordan, and it was Iran, Iraq, Syria, and they were backed by Saudi Arabia. They went directly into war, and this war actually caused then the Western Bank, or the West Bank, to come under the control of the Hashemites, or of the Transjordans, and all of that became Jordan. Gaza had come under the control of Egypt, and so the land, the way they partitioned it, the Arabs never really wanted a partition plan, because one of the things they were saying is that if we accept a partition plan, that means that we effectively would be accepting a Jewish state. So we're not going to accept anything on no portions of the land. And even though they had a bunch of agreements, like I say, we had the Peel Commission in 1937, and you had the 1947 partition plan. And you had another plan that was offered in 1967. after the war effectively ended, the 6 Day War, and then Israel had taken the Golan Heights, they had taken the West Bank, they had taken East Jerusalem, they had taken the Sinai Peninsula, and what they were effectively offering is that we'll offer these lands in exchange for peace. But only later on did they get a deal with Jordan, and did they get a deal with Egypt. But effectively they were saying, okay, we want to give back the Gaza Strip back to Jordan. We don't want it, but Jordan didn't want it. They like, no, we good on that. And so even the agreements that had been, or the plans that were offered in 2000 under Prime Minister Ehud Barak, he was effectively saying, okay, we'll give y'all about 90 something percent or 100% of the West Bank, and then 90 something percent of other areas, and then you have East Jerusalem as your capital city. They weren't going for that. In 2008, again, Ehud Olmert, who was the prime minister, he also offered something, but he offered something even better than that. They weren't going for it. Now, it was the leadership of and I'm talking about Israel as well. It was the leadership of the Palestinians who was saying, one, we are part and parcel of, like I say, Syria. So we're not interested in being divided from Syria. We are not Palestinians. We are Arabs that are part of Syria. This idea of Palestine is what they called then in the 1960s it was. They said that this was an idea that had come from the Zionists. We're not calling ourselves Palestinian. But from the development, the establishment of the PLO in 1964, the first leader of the PLO in 1964, he said again that we need to reiterate that we are part and parcel of the Arabs. We don't want to be a separate entity, from our brothers and sisters. But the separate entity idea only came later on, once it was actually pushed through the propaganda of the Soviets. Because what the Soviets were saying is that, okay, look, that we have an idea for you all. What we can do is we could change the wording about everything that's happening here so that we can be able to present it to the world in a way where they could be able to resonate with it better. What can they resonate with better? They can resonate with words like oppression, colonization, a lot of words that actually were being used by the African Americans in America. And that's why they wanted to actually connect a lot with the African American community in America. You had the Black Panthers and Brother Malcolm and Jesse Jackson and a lot of these other people. They were specifically going. The Palestinians were specifically going to the African American community because they already knew what type of power we had internationally. But again, these are things that we can talk about this in depth. But I don't believe that it was necessarily just a partition plan, because they never really wanted to partition. So if you ask me about a two-state solution, the idea of a two-state solution that's being presented is this. We go back to the 1967 borders, and we have East Jerusalem as our capital. East Jerusalem also includes all of the archaeological areas. Also, it includes the Western Wall and all these places that are very near and dear to us as Israelites, but also to the Jews. But we still have the power to be able to establish a military. We still have the power to do, whatever it is that we want to do in our state, and nobody can intervene with that. On Israel's side, is saying, hold on now. If we go back to the 1967 borders, that'll effectively put a Palestinian state right in the heart of Israel. It'll take between 5 to 10 minutes because Israel is narrow as well. It's not a big place. It's not a long place. It take from one side from the West Bank to this is what they call from the river to the sea, right? From the river to the sea, it takes probably about 45 minutes drive. Going up from north to south, the entire way, that's 6 hours. So it's a small place. So what Israel is saying is that these borders will be indefensible. We won't have the ability to be able to defend our, but one, because Jericho and other places would, in a lot of places in the West Bank, they would actually be higher. They would be on the hill. They would not provide us who's in the valley in Jerusalem. I mean, in Tel Aviv and in all these other areas. They wouldn't allow us the ability to be able to defend our borders, from the Palestinians who are right there on the border. Secondly, we saw what happened when Israel effectively unilaterally pulled out of the Gaza Strip in 2005. They had the ability to be able to establish a Palestinian, or at least an autonomy there. They could be able to be the foundation of a Palestinian state. But instead of moving with that, they actually developed that into a terror state. So they put more emphasis, as opposed to into the infrastructure and into the development of the society and all that. They put more emphasis on developing rockets and tunnels and all of these things. And so that put more fear in the hearts of Israel, saying that now, if this is what's happening from the southern border of Israel, all of these communities that are right there on the Gaza envelope are not safe. If we take that now and we copy it effectively to the heart of Israel, there's no possibility that Israel will be able to continue to exist as it is. And so we can't have a two-state solution in that case. Not only me, but Palestinians don't believe in two-state solution possibility. They want the entire thing. Israel don't really believe in a two-state solution possibility. They're saying that it'll be indefensible, and we're not going to have another state like Gaza with shooting rockets and all of that in the heart of Israel. So effectively, that's just a myth. People are just talking about it, but effectively, that's not anything that actually take place. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't even have to give my own opinion about that, because both sides are giving their opinion. That's just not a reality. It's not going to happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we got Chief Rabbi that's sitting here sipping slow on that Jerusalem tea, because he's just waiting, y'all. He's waiting to jump in, and rightfully so. He waited almost a full hour. So, Chief Rabbi, the stage is yours. Enter where you will with what you desire to go into.
So just quickly, I'm enjoying cappuccino. We're relaxing out here. I'm on the balcony. I like to be out here because, for example, on Shabbat, literally, I'm in an area that's in between where the Knesset is, where all the governmental businesses, and close by where one of the places where the prime minister lives at. I'm in that vicinity, right? So on Shabbat evening, there was big attack, whatever, and it was suicide drone that was we're on the balcony, and it was just coming closer and closer. And I will say now we're going inside the bomb shelter area. You know what I mean? But before, we weren't being so smart on Shabbat, and so we were out on a balcony. And so this drone was just coming closer and closer, and it was really low. That's how it got under the radar. And it was at building height, and we were just staring at it, you know what I mean? And it was getting closer and closer. And out of nowhere, an Israeli, fighter jet comes in and just blows it up, and the debris. But literally the whole block that I'm on right now, everyone was cheering because everyone was on their balcony watching it. So as much as this is crazy things that are going on, that's that. Now, there's two particular points I want to address, and I want to go back to Ashriel really quick. I'm a spiritual person, right? I'm a spiritual person. I'm about spirituality, and I want Ashriel to kind of take this time to talk about the young gentleman, or anyone else that I not even know about, that is from the demonic community that has died in this conflict in Gaza and Lebanon, Syria. If you could talk about them and maybe show their picture, because I know you have your phone, maybe you could show the picture, gentlemen, just for the community to be able to understand that, we have people that are dying, but also to be able to mourn his loss and to be able to, just have a moment of just reflection on who he is and that, and giving that strength to the elevation of his soul. Ashriel.
So this is the young son Elishai, who was killed in duty just a few months ago. May Yabi have mercy on his soul and continue to console his family and the entire community. And because we serve in the IDF, then obviously we are prone to anything that comes along with that. So, like I said, we're part and parcel of everything happening in Israel, in the entire Israeli society. And so, as a result of that, we've had our casualties as well. We've had him. We've had our brother Aharon, who was killed in 2002 in a terror attack while he was performing at a bat mitzvah in Hadera. We had our sister Tovit, who was killed while she was in her booth in the military, right on the coast of the Mediterranean. So we've had our casualties. We've had people who have lost their lives here in Israel as a part of this reality here. So it goes to show that obviously, yes, we are protected, and we do move in such a way where we have to be intelligent. But at the same time, the reality on the ground says that it's very complicated, and as a result of that, we could actually get caught in the crossfires by being here and by experiencing the entire Israeli society as is.
Yeah, and I want to just throw one point in there is, a lot of the way that we see reality as it relates to like what's going on internationally, when we're really honest with ourselves, it's very much shaped by academia and very much shaped by politics. And we know that those systems that have been put in place have not been designed for the advancement or the enhancement of minority groups in general, right? And then specifically, we have our own particular gripe. But the point is saying, like, when we talk about like us as, say, African Americans or people who identify as Israelite, we got to ask ourselves, who are we listening to that develops our view of our foreign policy? And I don't want to be political, like maybe that's not the right language, maybe you could say it differently, but our view of what's going on internationally and where do the opportunities lie for us in this expansion that we're seeing right now, right? Because as much as, we could talk about like, Israel, Palestine, and again, nobody wants to see children die. Nobody wants to see it. It's a horrible situation, right? But again, as we said yesterday, the business model of Hamas is to use civilian casualties to be able to use those gruesome experiences to go out and raise hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, right? And it's unfortunate that the Palestinian people, the people who identify as Palestinian, are caught in the crossfire of this. We're not condemning them. They're just as much as they're victims, just as much as the soldiers fighting, on behalf of Putin. They're just doing what they're told to do, right? So it's just not the point of saying we're not here to condemn Palestinians. Palestinians are part of Israeli society. They're part of the fabric, the infrastructure. So that's not the issue. The issue here is Islamic fundamentalism, and that effect of it is and this is the sad thing. I remember doing 9/11, right? I'm older than Ashriel, right? I'm closer, to Rav Zain, right? But I remember, if you remember Rav Zain, when 9/11 happened, every Muslim organization in America said that this is not Islam, this is Islamic radicalism, and this is not what we're about. And everyone in a large part of America accepted that. But that when we see what's happening over here in the Middle East, because Jews are involved, all of a sudden we forgot about that. We forgot, like, all of a sudden, weren't we all against Iran? Like, weren't we all protesting? Weren't we all saying, like, free Iran, free the women of Iran, free the people? Weren't we saying that? But now that the Jews are involved, all of a sudden now, like we turn an eye to that. That's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense. It's like that's self-hate. And the thing, and this is my thing to the Israelite community in America. You should be offended you're not receiving anti-Semitism. The fact that you're not receiving anti-Semitism is because they don't even believe you're Jewish. They don't believe you have any connection to Zera Israel. That's why you're not receiving it. And so you're cozy with them. They're laughing at you. Right? They're laughing at you because if they really actually thought that you were connected to the seed of Yaakov, if they actually thought that you were connected to this big story, they would hate your guts and be trying to murder you. But they don't. So it's not all good. It's the dissent to your face. If you're saying that you're a descendant of Yaakov and you're part of the base of Mikdash being rebuilt, you're part of Mashiach coming and bringing the exiles back into the land, rebuilding the land. If you're saying that that's what you're part of, that's the last thing that they want to see. That's the last thing that they want to see. And then people want to criticize me because I say I'm a Jew and I'm sitting up here defending Jerusalem from the rules of other nations. You want to diss me? Well, you want me to go when we put a Palestinian flag on my head and some lipstick and say I'm free? I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it real with you. I'm just saying, like, what do you want? They're like, we're here fighting for this land. Whether you're Israelite in Dimona, like Ashriel and other Israelites that I, whether you're a Jew, right, Orthodox Jew like myself, right, and many other people in this land. Go ahead, jump in because I'm throwing punches. I'm going wild.
No, I want you to get ready to hit the heavy bag. I'm gonna play exactly 3 minutes from a video from Double Down News, and then I want both of you brothers to respond to this video effectively. It's from a Jewish journalist who was recently fired from a major Israeli news outlet for speaking out against Netanyahu and the policies of the Israeli regime. I'm only going to play 3 minutes. It's a 10-minute video, but I would love you guys to respond to the 3 minutes. If you'd like to hear more, I can certainly play more, but I just want to get you guys' thoughts live on the air in real time. I'm going to ask everyone to please mute up, and here we go.
There's literally nothing that Israel won't do in the name of vengeance and in the name of continuing Zionism. For some people, the takeaway is as long as they're not literally putting people in ovens, as long as they're not doing exactly what the Nazis did, that somehow that's okay. It's actually not okay. Never again doesn't mean never again in the exact same way that the Nazis did it. If that's your takeaway from the Holocaust, you really need to look at yourself and do some soul searching. I'm Jewish. I lost members of my family during the Holocaust. And the truth is, Israel does not represent me. Israel does not make me safer. In fact, it puts me and all Jews in greater danger because as Israel commits these crimes against humanity and live streams them, and in some cases gleefully live streams them, we've seen soldiers doing this, Israel doing that and saying it's in the name of Jews, that will create anti-Semitism. The idea that Israel represents all Jews is in itself an anti-Semitic idea. The dual loyalty trope says that all Jews are a monolith and we're all loyal to Israel and we can't be trusted to be loyal to other governments, regardless of where we live. That is really what Israel is leaning into. And you have anti-Semites and then the government of Israel, AIPAC and the ADL, all making the same argument, which I think really shows you the dangers and the inherent anti-Semitism of Zionism. People like to claim that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic. Well, it's actually not, given that you literally have more Christian Zionists in the world than you have Jewish Zionists. This particular Christian form of Zionism wants Jews to go back to Israel so we can provoke the end times, Armageddon. All Jews except a very lucky 400 who accept Christ as their Lord and Savior burn for all of eternity. So these are the allies. All these cancel culture warriors who talk about right-wingers being canceled are very silent, interestingly enough, when it comes to critics of Israel, who are probably the most canceled people of all. If you're a Palestinian critic of Israel, you're very, very, very canceled. If you're a Jewish critic of Israel, you're less canceled, but you're still canceled. You're just canceled as a self-loathing Jew as opposed to an anti-Semite. which is a significant difference. I mean, I was fired by a network for saying that Israel is an apartheid state. So my being Jewish didn't really protect me. And of course, there's a huge bias in the way that corporate media reports on Israel-Palestine. They're very clear when Russia does something.
All right, I'm going to pause that video there for a moment. I'm going to keep it in the queue in case you would like to hear more. But I'm just going to surmise what she's saying so far. So she's a Jewish commentator for a news outlet in Israel, and she was recently fired for offering critique against the state of Israel, its regime, and its policies. And she says that this is systemic right now, ongoing in Israel, that anyone offering critique against the policies of the state of Israel, even if they're Jewish, they're being ousted. Jewish people are being called anti-Semitic when they have a different view that diverges from the current Israeli-led narrative by Netanyahu and his regime. So I ask you, brothers, now to not only consider her words and what she's saying and give us some background, share with us why she would need to say this, right? And then I'm also going to put a question out there that's deeply controversial towards you, but I have to represent the greater audience with this question. But I'm going to give you a disclaimer. It's a very controversial question I'm going to ask you, brothers. She essentially said in the video that she was unable to speak her truth because it was in. Chief Rabbi, could you just mute your mic for a moment? Is your background? Chief Rabbi, just mute your mic for a moment because we can hear the cars in your background. Chief Rabbi Mordechai, could you just mute your mic for a moment?
It's muted. It's muted. It's muted. What's the problem?
No, it's not muted, Chief Rabbi.
It's not muted? You can still hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you. we can hear you asking me what's my problem. You can't make this up. Oh, that was funny. All right. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you, and I don't take that personal because me and him, we joke and we jest. So those of you who thinking that he's coming at me, we have a behind the scenes relationship that's brotherly. So I don't take offense to that. But for you, I'll ask you. So in light of what she said, right, I want you to lastly address, or you could address it in whatever order you choose, but there's two things I want you to address. I want you to give us an understanding for why she's saying this, because you're on the ground. I'm sure you connect with people like her. So give us an understanding for why she would say this. But I also want you to speak to something here. She's essentially saying that she was fired because of her critique against the state of Israel. And she's Jewish. She was deemed anti-Semitic for her views, even though she's Jewish. So I'll ask you, not because I personally believe this about you or Chief Rabbi, but I have to ask, do you have any friendships that hinder your ability to be objective or selective in your critique or lack thereof for the state of Israel? Those are my 2 points.
Right. Look, whoever gives their opinion about what it is that happened, or not even just their opinion, but a real life occurrence. If they say it happened, then it happened. I mean, nobody's going back and forth with that. And two, that's why I could never speak on behalf of the state of Israel. When I speak, I speak in regards to the community. I speak in regards to the African diaspora in Israel. But I can't speak for the operation of the government, of the institutions, because we have major issues with the government. And I mean, remember, this is the same government, the same institutions since we've been here that have given us hell on earth. They never wanted us here. They fought us, every step of the way. We had to establish our own internal institutions like the school, like the birthing center, create jobs internally, because they didn't want us to be accepted into their institutions. And so, a lot of that bigotry that people talk about, it exists. It's real. It's real. And now Israel has also become more right wing. and they're becoming also not only right wing but more radical. People are becoming more radicalized. Like you would have never gotten, a fella like.
Hold on one moment, Ashriel. I just have to ask our moderators. Moderators, um, you can give a timeout or a warning to people that are trolling. We don't have a problem with anyone expressing different views on Zion Lex TV. When you begin to troll the chat and even, almost jest at some of the speakers, you're going to be removed with all due respect. So I'm going to ask that everyone be respectful. We are all entitled to disagree. This disagreement does not mean that I dislike my brothers or my brothers should dislike me. In fact, if you're listening clearly, we actually agree on a lot of things, even this topic in many ways. I would adjure Mark Boyd in the chat to be very careful with your commentary. With all due respect, if you think we're doing something that is that diametrically opposed, you have the ability to completely remove yourself from the room. But please do not come on here and troll us because you will be removed. So, moderators, please get on your job. If that continues to happen, give a warning by timing out. If not, please remove him from the room. Ashriel, I deeply apologize. It's back on you, good brother.
All right. So, our representation is of the African diaspora and our brothers and sisters in the community in Israel. We don't represent the government or the institutions or the policies. And not only do we not, inside of Israel as well, you have a large portion of the Israeli society. There's also very anti the government and anti a lot of these institutions. And a lot of people internally also say a lot of these things that other people are saying. I mean, you have organizations internally in Israel like B'Tselem and Peace Now and Women Making Peace, and all of these organizations that are effectively against the Israeli policies, against the Israeli government, and a lot of people see them as traitors as well internally inside of Israel. Even during the war right now against Iran, you have people who are going out and protesting against the war. Even since the beginning of the war with the Palestinians in Gaza, you had people who've been out, I mean, hundreds of people protesting against the war. But then you also had the families of these people who are still held hostage in Gaza, who've been protesting against the war, who've been protesting against the government, who've been protesting against Netanyahu, who's been saying that he and this government is the main reason why we're currently in this situation now. So it's not just people from the outside that are saying these things, there are people from the inside who are saying these things as well. Now, on top of that, by us being people of a darker skin hue, African people, we get the lowest end of the stick, right? Because even inside of Israeli society, you have for the last, up until this war, Israel was on the brink of an explosion internally in a civil war, they were saying. What was the reason? Because they were saying on one hand, those people who feel like they've been oppressed internally in Israel. So we're talking about the Mizrahim, we're talking about the Sephardim, we're talking about the right wingers. They feel like they've been oppressed for a long period of time by the Ashkenazi elite, by the European Jews, by the leftists, by those people who are secular, who, as far as they're concerned, these other communities are kind of, they're type 2 communities, second-hand communities, or second-class communities. And then it also goes for the Ethiopian community. It also goes for us. It also goes for the Arabs. So internally, there are a lot of people, the Haredim, or who are the ultra-Orthodox community. These people see these, see these governments and see these institutions as institutions that are inherently against them. And so when people mention these things, I mean, this is really how they feel. And some fights, I let them fight their own fight, because we have our own things that we need to settle for ourselves as our community, as the African diaspora in Israel. And so getting involved in things that are not really I mean, we're not Jew. I'm not Jewish anyway. So, you know, what difference does it make if you call me anti-Semitic or not? I mean, I don't consider myself, and we're not Jews. We're Hebrews. We're Israelites. And so that's a fight for them. We're not getting ourselves involved in that. So if the lady is saying that this is what she experienced within her community, then that's what she experienced within her community. If all these other people are saying this is what they experienced at the hands of the government and the institutions, is some truth to that, because we experience a lot of things at the hand of the government and the institutions as well. So, you know, so there's an inherent problem then, it seems, with the governments and the governmental institutions that need to be addressed. Moving forward, acting like these things don't exist or bashing people for having critique of these things, that's not going to help anything. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know, you know, how much more could I be able to answer that question? But I think that I really touched on it as deep as
No, you darn sure did. You darn sure did. The last part of that question, I certainly want you to address, because she said that she found herself in a very, you know, tough place, because here she is entitled to have her view, and she can't even express it on this news outlet to the extent that they go and fire her. So the relationship that she had, you know, prevented her. But before she had a chance to remove herself, they removed her. So, you know, there are going to be people on the ground, and even in our chat, they're going to say, well, Ashriel and Rav Mordechai, they both live in Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. And as such, we've seen them both on Israeli TV stations, podcasts. They clearly have relationships with Israelis on the left and the right, regardless of viewpoint, right? And so many of them are going to argue that as a result of those relationships, you are hindered in as far as how much you would like to speak truth to power in the spirit and full volume in which you can speak it, but because it may interrupt various relationships, you may not have the ability to do so. But I happen to believe that I know you. I happen to believe that I know you. And if what I believe about you is true, I want you to defend yourself. So my question is, do you have any friendships that hinder your ability to be objective or selective in your critique or lack thereof for the state of Israel?
So every relationship that I've built, that I've developed since, you know, moving in Israel, since going to the military, as a matter of fact, and probably even beforehand, has always been on the basis of two things. On the basis of who I am, coming from the African Hebrew Israelite community, and on the basis of what we believe in, what our fundamental principles are. And everybody knows those things. So every relationship that I develop is based on those things. Everybody who I've developed a relationship with, I don't compromise. I don't change. It remains the exact same. And anybody who you talk to, from Knesset members through, you know, just ordinary people on the street, you know, it could be Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Ethiopian, asylum seekers, other Hebrew Israelite communities, Black Jews, Afro-Palestinians. Everybody know that my position is and remains the same with everybody. And so there's nothing hindering me from speaking. One, because, you know, but what could be done? But okay, so we lose some friendships. Okay, so we lose the friendships. They're gone then. But that's not going to cause me then to. And I think if there's anybody who's been more vocal, speaking about speaking about our experiences, has been me. You know, following.
That's a fact.
What has been what people.
If I can, and I normally don't overspeak a speaker, but with all due respect, I don't see anyone else doing more vocal work, more actionable work than yourself. And that's not to say that others aren't doing a whole lot of work. Chief Rabbi Mordechai is doing a whole lot of work. There are others. There's a brother that you and I have in common, a great relationship with, that's not too liked by the Israelite community, Yirmiyahu. right? He does a lot of videos, a lot of viral videos, and he does a lot of work. But I have to say that with my two eyes, you're outworking everybody. So I had to just interject and say, absolutely, absolutely, brother. I mean, not only are we clear on that point, but so much so, I'm gonna come in and be your hype man behind that. We know you doing the work, brother, and that's in part why it's an honor to have you here.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that a whole lot, More. But that's basic, And for me, again, as being an ambassador for the African Diaspora Collective, that's why I put the majority of my attention and my energy into our people here in Israel. Now I know a lot of people want to talk about a lot of other things that sometimes are not even relevant, to us, just for the purpose of having a conversation, not for the purpose of moving things forward that'll be able to put the needle more so on our side, not for being able to enhance our position in Israel, not in order to be able to open up the gates for our people to be able to come home. They're not bringing any financial contributions to the stage to be able to help us to continue to sustain ourselves here. But it's people who just want to have conversations, who just want to talk, and some people just want to really, just go ham, which is okay, which is okay. But we're intelligent on how we move, but we don't move away from our positions as they are. So sometimes they say you can be right and you can be dead right. Well, I'm trying to be alive right.
Come
And I'm
on.
trying to do things that'll be able to push things in our favor to be able to, to put us in a better position. We're working for purposes of opening up the gates for our people to be able to come home. We're doing a lot of things, that are progressive. But a lot of people want. I mean, again, you have people who are gang banging, intellectually, and who desire to do so. That's where they want to put their focus. And if they want to put their focus there, that's absolutely okay with me. But we're going to continue to move in such a way where we're going to be effective. I'm not trying to waste my time about discussing things that are not going to help us move in any direction. There are a lot of things that could be very correct about Israel, about America, about Iran, about China, about South Africa, about so many other places. But at the end of the day, my question is, okay, now that we know these things, now that we've discussed this, now what? Okay, we've put these things to the table. Now how is this going to help us in moving forward? So that's
Listen. You spoke volumes. We're gonna hear some more from you, but we have another brother that just entered the stage. I'm gonna say shalom, brother Moshe. Feel free to make any statement you'd like to make. Enter into the dialogue. Either engage and ask us questions, or go into what you would like to on this topic. Shalom to you. And by the way, many people may be unfamiliar with you, so just give us a brief introduction for you as well.
My name is Moshe. I reside in New York, Queens, Kew Garden Hills. I'm a
Moshe, your phone. Okay. He's gonna fix that. That should be fixed in a couple of moments. I actually saw him get up a couple of times, so he's probably checking on his connection. In the meantime, chat, throw up the video and share the live stream. We're gonna take a quick 60-second commercial break. I want everybody to bear in mind, Israel has a 7-hour difference from New York City. So Rav Mordechai and Ashriel Moore are staying up to share with us from the ground their views. So keep in mind, it's prayer time for them, it's eat time for them, and it's also family time for them. So meaning we don't have that much more time with them. So any of you have questions, please get those questions out. If any of you want to join the live stream really quick, please use the moment to. We're going to use the next 60 seconds or less to do a quick commercial video break. We will be right back. When we be back, hopefully we'll have Moshe join us, or we'll bring this bill to a close with our brother Ashriel Moore hitting some very, very hard points, because so far I have questioned him, but I also would love to see what he came to present and share with us, independent of any questions that I may be asking. So we'll be right back, everyone. Very quick commercial break.
Want to take your understanding and perception of the Hebrew Bible to new and exciting heights and depths? Then join us today at Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. We offer a full range of masterly taught and thought-provoking classes and courses in Biblical Hebrew for beginners and advanced students, Torah classes, with specific emphasis on the weekly Torah portion. We also offer Kabbalah classes for beginners and advanced students, affording everyone a deeper and more esoteric understanding of the Bible and Torah. Lastly, we also offer courses in rabbinical and Levitical ministry training, especially designed for those looking to embark upon leadership opportunities in the community. We provide certificates and diplomas for several of our classes. Our online academy meets a couple days a week, and all of our classes are video recorded and for your playback needs. Each class recording comes with a fully digitized AI transcript, documenting everything learned and discussed in each session.
Yeah.
All right. All right. On that note, take it away, Brother Moshe. Again, just give us a brief introduction of who you are, where you're from, and then go into whatever you'd like to engage us with.
Yeah. My name is Moshe. I'm from New York, Queens, New York, and I'm a convert.
All right. You're a convert.
Like,
okay.
I'm a convert. We see a convert is 100% Jewish, and a born Jew is 99.9% Jew. The thing was going on, like, well, like our forefathers is where we go for our ways. We, as Jews, we follow the ways of our forefathers, as it's in the scriptures and stuff. So a lot of people is in this state of entitlement in Palestine and everything like that. It's a big spiritual war going on right now. So very, very touchy topic. Because a lot of people would feel like, oh, because their skin complexion, what makes them a Jew? And it's a difficult topic to get on.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. I'd also raise the counter view that a lot of European Jews typically do look at us, and because of our skin complexion, they say, "How are you a Jew?" Right? My experience, good brother Moshe, is that in the year 1994, I came into the awakening of being a Hebrew Israelite. So at that time, 1994, there's no YouTube, there's no Facebook, there's no Instagram, there's no social media, period. There's cell phones, but only drug dealers got them. There's not too much communication, especially sophisticated, right? So when I would first go in among European circles, and I too reside in New York City, so by the way, we're going to connect. When I first went out in New York City and davened at various European congregations, you know, all eyes were on me because of my skin color. So, you know, there is this natural stigma that all people groups have in encountering a completely different look for the same view, not knowing, not having the experience that, oh, wow, you do this too. So yeah, we're all guilty of that. And that's where we really need to come to understand. We're all guilty of that to a certain perspective. Yeah, I totally agree. But
sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, but I also want to make sure that we have you weigh in. So if you would like to first engage our brother Ashriel, who's live from Israel, and ask him any questions or engage with him, by all means, I'm just a host in this moment, right? Do what you would like to do, you know, ask him any questions or make any statements or touch on the actual topic.
Have you ever davened in an Orthodox Jewish shul before?
That would be
out in Israel. in
Have I
Israel.
have I ever been in an Orthodox shul?
Yeah,
Have you
have
ever
you ever went
davened
to a
or
Torah
prayed?
study
Have you ever prayed or
or
davened
pray
in
to
a
go to the Torah
Oh,
study?
that's how they call it, David. No. I mean, well, yeah, I have with on special occasions with some of my friends. When um, they would get married and things like that. So I'll come. I have, yeah. I didn't know that's how. I didn't know that's
So
what you called it.
are you we call it davening and invention. So it's like we have appointed times every day from sun up to sundown. So I
You're talking
was
about the
wondering if you're familiar with that.
the
Huh?
mincha, the
Yeah,
shacharit.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I was just
yeah.
wondering if you're familiar with that because as a Jew, no matter if you don't mess with them or not, it's still in the scriptures to do so as appointed times. We following the festivals. That's why I was asking or whatever, because everybody got their different ways or whatever, and they different connections, how they connect themselves to the King of the universe. One may be through skin complexion, another may be through an intellectual vision.
Right. Oh, it was a question at the end of that
Yeah, I
question.
think what he's essentially asking is, have you had the experience of praying among European Jewry, or praying and engaging in a ritual setting for like feasts and holy days? And
Like I was
yes, God,
saying, do y'all do the same practices out there as you calling yourself a Hebrew Israelite? Do you doing if you're a Hebrew Israelite, that's like the same as saying you're a Jew from Yehudim. And if you're doing the same practices as them, even if you don't agree with their government, do you do the same practices of the Jews from the Torah?
one point before you respond, because I see the questions in the chat. Yes, chat. Daven is a Yiddish term. It denotes prayer, right? So when you enter a shul, or when you're engaged in dialogue with most European Jewry, I've even spoken with Bukharian Jews, and they also use the term daven, right? Because it's so popular. I went to Toro College here in New York City, and you're going to see all kind of Jews. You're going to be in there with Mizrahi Jews. You're going to be in there with Sephardic Jews. You're going to be in there with Ashkenazic Jews. There are many different types of Jewish groups, people groups throughout the world, and the term daven denotes prayer in Yiddish. So yes, it's a point that speaks to prayer. We in the Ivrit we would say tefillah, but among modern Jewry they defer to the terms that are used in the lands where they come from. And by the way, some people are going to think I'm cooning on this one, but I'm gonna just keep it real. Our Igbo brothers and sisters have their own term for prayer, as developed based on their tradition, based on the lands that they grew up in. So whether or not we acknowledge that Ashkenazim are Jews or not, whether that's your belief, that you believe that they're the people or not, people are entitled to coin their way of looking at something based on their geographical location, right? People are entitled to do that. Jews or Israelites that lived in Babylon, we developed this term called Rav based on the Babylonian experience. When we were in Mitzrayim, Egypt, we adopted the term Nasi. A lot of people, you see, one of the things that I do very well is Hebrew linguistics, Hebrew grammar, and Hebrew etymology. A lot of people think that the term Nasi is an aboriginal term to the Hebrew language, and it is not. The term for king in Egypt is to call a person a Nasut. The son of the king is called Sa Nisu. Sa Nisu, son of the king. So Nasi, as adopted in from the Egyptian tongue, comes to mean prince, because the prince is the Sa Nisu, the son of the king. So we have always adopted terms based on our geographical locations. So him deferring to the term Davin because that's his experience based on his who he's interacting with, I don't think we should, try to make fun of him. I think we should try to understand. My apologies.
We say tefillah too as a prayer, but we'll say dive in the bench because when we praying, we whispering so it could be a connection with the King of the universe, and we have our eyes down on the book instead of freestyling prayers. So when we calling a diving, everybody's coming at the appointed time, and there's a certain time where we pray with the angels. So you got about like 3 hours out the morning before the sun set. the time you could say the Shema in the morning. So I was asking him, is he familiar with these things, since he feel like he's one of the people that clings to God. So to cling to something is try to do the 613 commandments to your best abilities.
So yes, the answer is yes. Obviously, we have different practices, or different ways that we experience or that we portray those practices. So we won't necessarily go to a Beit Knesset to do these certain things, but we do pray in the morning, we do pray in our afternoon, and we do pray in the evening time. What we call the prayer in the morning, we call it raising the ark. The prayer in the nighttime, we call lowering the ark. And then you have the prayer in the afternoon. So yes, we do. We may not do it in the same times that that people, like you said, davening and those things. We may not necessarily do it in that manner, and we may not necessarily do it in the places that other people do. But we do have our specific practices, and a lot of those practices are also given to us or interpreted for us by the people who are responsible for that area of operation within the community. It will be called the priests or the Kohanim, right? So we have a priesthood within the community who they direct us in all ways of the the keeping of the commandments of they let us know when certain prayers need to be prayed. They let us know when certain holy days come in and go out. They let us know when the times are for for the acceptance of Shabbat, or for the Shabbat being completed. So they're responsible. So they will probably be like in the community that you come from. They'll probably be like the Rabbanim, for example.
That's kind of different because a 5-year-old and as a Jew knows all the appointed times and doesn't have to be taught, because we are appointed to follow the Sabbath 52 times a year, which is 52 weeks. And out of following the Sabbath, we don't pick up the scriptures and go with what we want to read. We actually read it by day, by week. It's like a parsha. So it's like once you finish every 12 months, you actually finish the Torah. So it's like it's kind of different how y'all follow it, but it's all right. But it's ways and simple ways to do things as a Jew, and we all need to get connected.
I want to
So
respond to his point really quick, Ashriel. I know you're burning too. I want to respond to something. Let me ask you, good brother Moshe, where in the tradition does it say a 5-year-old would know all of that?
Is basically I shouldn't say 5. I should say like a child that
So,
can
I want to say
read a
something.
book fluently. A
I
child
want
that
to
can read a book fluently. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
I want to say something. You're right. I just wanted to know where in the tradition that's being said. You're right, though. I want to know. Can you tell us where?
I'm not too sure, and I don't want to talk on something that I don't know of really.
Okay.
But
So there's a reason why I'm saying that to you, because
it
I
makes
want you
sense.
to. There's a reason why I'm
Just
saying
makes
that to
sense
you. I want
according
you
to how
to.
I read the Torah.
Okay. There's a reason why I'm saying that to you. Maybe you're new to this platform, but this platform is very astute when it comes to the oral tradition. So you're not saying anything that we don't know here. We know very well what you're saying. What you're saying is found in the Mishnah, Avot, chapter 5. All right, that's where it's found. At 5 years old, a child studies Tanakh scriptures. At 10 years old, he studies Gemara, Talmud. At 13 years
Crazy,
old, he's
because I
a
never
bar
read that.
mitzvah. At 18 years old, I'll pull up the screen right now. At 18 years old, he goes to the canopy and he's married. Let me show you really quick the source for what you're saying, just so you can familiarize yourself with this platform. Give me 2 seconds. In the meantime, respond to him, Ashriel, please.
So, by living in the land of Israel, we interface with every which community of Jews, Israelites, and others. And obviously, even looking at all of the practices within these different communities, they're very different. right? Don't nobody. I mean, for example, the Ashkenazi community don't practice the same way the Sephardi community does. Sephardi community don't practice the same way the Ethiopian community does. The Ethiopian community don't necessarily practice the way the Bnei Israel or Bnei Menashe community from India do. You know, so all of these communities, even within the the Jewish community, Orthodoxy, they don't practice the same. But not only that, the other communities who are not necessarily Orthodox communities, like the conservatives here, like the reforms, like the reconstructionists, they also have very different practices. So I don't really see, a problem with practicing, things in a different way. And even at times, different practices is actually, something that, just like the Morey was saying, come from or brought from whatever traditions or wherever, however you were introduced to these specific practices. And so even like, I'll just give you, most fundamental practice, that during the Passover, right? You have the Ashkenazim who say that there are certain things that shouldn't be eaten because they're not kosher. Where in the Sephardi community, they actually do eat those certain things and they consider those things kosher. This is just, a fundamental example. So by being in Israel, we have the ability to interface with every which
Come
community.
back real quick, because the kosher thing, I don't think is like running. How is it not kosher in the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi community? They eat non-kosher, or they consider what they consider kosher and not non-kosher.
For example, in the Ashkenazi community, right? They wouldn't eat. I think it's certain beans or something. I don't remember the name of them specifically, but it's a certain bean that they consider non-kosher to not be eaten during the Passover. But on the Sephardic community side, they actually do eat those things and they consider them kosher.
You know that for a fact, or you just?
Well, I live
Because
here.
I'm in the Jewish community, and no matter where we at in the world, we practice the same. This is how we stand as one Echad.
So again,
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Echad.
So again, I'm sharing with you. I'm sharing with you based on my lived experience. I'm sharing with you based on the people who I interface with. I'm sharing with you based on, not just coming into. I was born and raised here within this society, so I have the ability to be able to interface with all these communities. And again, we don't consider ourselves Jews halachically, but we are Israelites. So we do hold
through the blood,
to the
right?
No, not necessarily through the blood, because within our community we say that that Abraham wasn't a Hebrew because he was born to a Hebraic lineage. We said that there were some things that he had to carry out that he
So can
did.
a white person be an Israelite?
Again, we don't necessarily say as far as the subscription to this idea that you have to be born into it according to the bloodline. We say that there are certain things that you would need to do. Your subscription to the Torah, to the commandments, is actually what makes you, not just being born into it. So that's our ideology here in Israel. Now, can a white person be, or can we don't determine for other people who and what they are. We focus on ourselves, what we are, who we are. And the reason why is this, Moshe, because you have people within the Jewish community, Ashkenazi mostly, that just by looking, and I'm talking about the Ethiopian community, let's put us to the side for a second. I'm talking about the Ethiopian community that have clearly held on to a lot of these traditions for 2,000 years. But they still have to go through what is called Giyur Lechumra. Giyur Lechumra is saying that they are Safek Yehudim. Safek Yehudim means that we still wishy-washy. We're not 100% sure about their Jewish identity. So the Kesim are not recognized as spiritual leaders within the community. The Ethiopian community, I mean, we've had cases where, for example, some people were working in a winery. Ethiopian Jews were working in a winery, and the bottles that they had touched the Ashkenazi mashgiach, or the one who's responsible for keeping kosher within these areas, decided that these specific bottles are not kosher because they were touched by the Ethiopians, and it has nothing to do with them being, being Jewish or not. But it's still, a racial thing. So as far as we're concerned, we don't get involved in determining for other people who and what they are. We focus on our identity, on our practices, on our understanding of the Torah. We don't necessarily subscribe to a lot of those interpretations that come from rabbis, because you have in Israel, you have more than 200 different sects. You have rabbis who are even within the Ashkenazi community. You have the Ashkenazis, and you have the Lithuanians, and then you have the Machmirim.
Mordechai is a rabbi.
Huh?
Mordechai is a rabbi. You have a black one in your face.
No, Moshe, I'm not here to be confrontational with you. I'm trying to help you to understand the Israeli society, which you don't understand because you've never. I mean, you don't live here, right? So I know that there are rabbis who are black rabbis. I'm not ignorant about that. I know this, right? I know some of them. That's not my point. My point is that there is still a racial lens that people are looking through, even here in Israel, when considering who and what is a Jew. Now, you don't experience it. I don't know. I mean, probably you don't experience it, and that's a good thing. But those things still do exist here in Israel, and everybody know that it exists here in Israel.
I think it exists in the whole world. I experience it in my community everywhere because I know for a fact everybody was born with an animal soul. It was born with an animal soul and a holy soul that fights each other each day. An animal is like territorial. An animal will do the same thing when they see a different fur, a different color. They get territorial. The thing is to refrain from the animal ways and not think, because we all come from Adam, we come from the ground, Adamo, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that. I understand that fight, but it's like I feel like we all have to get out that fight and fight this spiritual fight, because everybody that has your skin complexion is not your brother. It can never be. It's only the people that think like you and walk in the same ways as you. Even your flesh and blood because it happened many times in the ancient times. That doesn't mean that's your blood brother, but that's not your brother.
Moshe, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Where in anything that I said, since you've been on with me, did I make mention of anything being exclusive to a skin color?
I ain't say you're exclusive to a skin color, but you're pulled to Judaism or to Hebrew Israelite. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from the Torah or skin color? Because you go off of the like you saying it for your people or the Zionists or something like that. It's like, you say you're a Hebrew Israelite. I wanted to understand what makes you feel like you're a Hebrew Israelite. Is it your skin complexion that makes you feel this way?
It's my ancestry. It's my history. It's my community. It's my people who held on to, that identity throughout generations. It's me knowing who I am. So I don't feel like nothing. I am who I am and what I am. And so if you want to know about that, then I can share that with you. But as far as me feeling like something, no, sir, I don't feel no way. I know who I am. So I don't feel like nothing.
Okay.
We had another brother enter the stage that's going to speak in a couple of moments. The conversation's getting good. Disclaimer for good brother Moshe. The Hebrew Israelite community is not a monolith, so there's not one view that we share exclusively. There are many different views. I know I can say affectionately that the Jewish community is not a monolith as well, as much as many may think it is. And by that, when you visit a Sephardic Knesset, you're going to see Nusak Tefillim that is explicitly dedicated towards the Sephardic paradigm. You're going to see a Nusak Ashkenazi. We now have Nusak Afriki. We have an order of prayer for Africans. We have an order of prayer for Middle Eastern Jews. So there's minhag that Yemenite Jews follow. So there's no real monolith to Hebraic expression of our culture and our tradition. However, there should be a monolith to how we understand Torah, right? There should be a monolith for that. And for that, there are some of us that would lean upon Torah Sheval Peh, which is the oral tradition. So I just want to caution you a bit, because maybe you're unfamiliar with this platform, and say to you again that some of us are really well versed in the oral tradition, right? So much so that if we begin to exchange, all right, if we begin to exchange, you will soon understand that. So saying that to say, there are many different Israelite communities. There are many different thinkers in the community. As Brother Ashriel is perfectly pointing out, his concession and acknowledgement of being an Israelite, he didn't demonstrate that was a color. And that was his question to you. He said, where did I make this a color thing? Because he actually didn't say that, which was a very fair response.
I want to know where's the covenant that shows he's a Jew if he's not identifying as a color? Like, where people just don't wake up, and where's his ancestors that's Jews? You just pick up the scripture and say you're a Jew is what I'm asking. What makes you think that you're a Jew?
I want to respond.
Can I
Ashriel, he's asking. Hold on one moment. Hold on one moment. The conversation's getting great. Moshe, don't go nowhere. We're gonna trap you in this room. Don't go nowhere.
Hold on. All right.
Hold on. Ashriel is going to be able to. Ashriel is going to be able to respond to Moshe, but Ashriel, please give Brother Ron Shivat a couple of moments to express himself, because he just joined the live stream. Keep in mind what Moshe said to you, so that your response is ready. But I want to show respect to our brother Moreh Ron Shivat that joined the live. Shalom, Moreh. How you doing?
Shalom, family. This conversation went left, but it's interesting because it's necessary. My good brother Moshe, I would assume that you were Mark Boyd in the chat, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, so one, I'm going to say I understand fully where you're coming from, right? I was fortunate enough when I woke up as an Israelite in 2021, which is very recently actually, to have learned my first year of what even being an Israelite was from two platforms. The first one was actually Sodnetter, which is where I came across two Israelites, one being Rob Zion up in your upper right or upper left corner, and the other being, I'm disrespecting that man right now, but Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, Moreh Ron, disrespecting his name right now, Divine Prospect, okay? So those two right there are, in my opinion, two of the top Hebrew Israelite scholars. However, one, I understand, is an Orthodox Israelite. Notice I didn't say an Orthodox Jew, because we're all Jews, because we're all Yehudim, right? Whether you're B'nai Israel or Ani Israel, we're Yehudim.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but he's an Orthodox Israelite. It took me 5 years to even understand that, right? Moreh Divine Prospect is a Messianic Israelite. So it took me a while to understand what's a Karaite. It took me a while to understand what is quote unquote Orthodox. You're clearly Orthodox, but obviously you're an Orthodox quote unquote Jew, i.e. you're Jewish, right? I don't even like saying Jewish because it's derogatory as hell to me. I understand a little more now about what it is to be Yehudi. I understand that myself, Moreh Ashriel, Moreh Rob Zion, we're Israelites. So You're an Israelite, more than likely. Is that a guarantee? Is that a guarantee? No. And I don't mean B'nai Israel. I don't mean you converted to Judaism through a shul or through a Ashkenazic rabbi or maybe even a Sephardic rabbi that you've come across, but I'm going to assume it's Ashkenazic. I'm sorry?
It's through God. It's through God.
Right,
Nobody but
right.
God.
But can I ask, how did you come into being a Jew? I know you weren't born this way. So how did that happen?
Piercing my heart and baptizing my mind.
Exactly. Who did you come across that converted you to being a Jew?
It was
Somebody
a thought.
converted you to being a Jew. Who was it?
It was the
Why
big
was it?
dean.
I'm sorry? You said the
You said
big dean?
why?
Yeah, why was it? Why
Yeah.
did you become a Jew? What
It's a
made you
big
want to
dean
be
we
a
had to
Jew?
step, but it's all God. And I'm
Yes,
gonna
that's a
break it
question.
down why it's all God, right?
So
Because
you was just walking
we
down the
didn't
street
go for
one
nothing
day.
but God, blessed be the
You
name.
was just walking down the
Trust me.
street one day. You looked at animals and you said, you know what? I don't want to be like the animals, so I'm going to be a Jew. There are several different
But
religions to choose
you don't
from.
gotta guess. You could get the truth.
Yeah, I dig it. But there's several different religions to choose from. You chose Judaism. Why did you choose Judaism as your religion?
Because the only way you get to Judaism is if you search for the truth.
Okay, so how
Point
did you
blank
come
period.
across that understanding? What gave you that understanding? Because you could have chose Islam for that, but why Judaism?
I read the Quran, and if Muhammad was listening to the Jews and he accepted the Torah, which made me put the Quran down. I went to the Jews. Didn't make sense to look at the Quran.
Okay. So there was a step basis.
I'm a follow a man named Muhammad for. First and foremost, I follow a God, and I don't bow down to no man. I don't even follow Jesus.
Okay, that's Nation of Islam. So there's a difference between Nation of Islam and Islam, right? So I can understand why you would think and feel that way. The Nation of Islam bows down to a man. I wouldn't even say they bow down to a man, but they do consider Farad Muhammad God in the flesh or what have you. Islam
Yeah.
worships Allah. So there's still two different understandings
All right.
completely, right? You
Either
chose.
way, either way, it didn't make sense because they still have the Jew in their book. So I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna follow the chosen people. It doesn't
Okay,
make
so
sense for me to follow a book when they have to have the chosen people inside the book in order for it to be a book.
uh-huh. Now, in Queens, New York, you're in New York, you're in the Mecca, right? 5 boroughs, the whole 9, right? I'm pretty
Yes.
sure you've seen our good friends, the One West Israelites on the street, doing a One West
Yes.
Israelite thing. That turns you off, I
Yeah.
assume, correct?
We have many debates. It don't turn me off. I love to converse with them brothers.
Really?
When I first started out, I consider myself a Hebrew Israelite.
Really? So, okay, this is interesting. So you consider yourself a Hebrew Israelite when you first started out, but
Yes.
you seem to be a little, I'll say, unknowledgeable of where Ashriel Moore would be coming from. Now, he, to my understanding, would be considered a Karaite. All these things are still new to me, and I'm 5 years in, right? I'm not even a whole 5 years in, right? I'm
What
4
makes you
plus
call him a carrot?
because he's not a rabbinic Israelite, right? He's not a quote unquote rabbinic Jew. More Zion is, right? But that's Orthodox.
Without asking a
You are,
question, I asked the question to everybody: what makes you a Jew?
Okay,
right?
Moshe.
But see,
So, Moran,
you're
can I just
I don't think nobody
interject?
answered the question. Like,
So Moshe,
go ahead, Ashriel.
I want to ask you a few questions, and I think in this way we'll probably be able to arrive to something. Because you asked me a lot of questions, but I didn't really ask you a lot. So
I
you
just want to
subscribe
know
to
what
the,
makes you a Jew.
I said that already, but you subscribe to the Torah, I would assume,
Yes.
or do you subscribe to the orchard? Okay, no problem. So let me just ask you a few questions. When we read about Deuteronomy 28 and 68, can we identify anybody who you would probably say fit that description?
The Jews.
The Jews.
Yes.
What in Deuteronomy 28 and 68 would you say is relative to, or I mean, when you say the Jews, right? Because I mean that's very specific.
The
What
Hebrew
was written,
Israelites went through that.
no, I'm saying what's written in the 28th chapter and 68th verse of Deuteronomy, that is very specific. I mean, it's talking about something very specific. So when you say the Jews, which Jews are you referring to? Because you have Jews in Kaifeng, China, you have Jews in India, you have Jews in South Africa, you have Jews in America, you have Jews in Poland, you have Jews in the United States of America, you have Jews coming from North African countries.
You want to talk about the Jews that went on the slave ships and the Atlantic slave trade is what we're talking about?
No,
This is what you're talking about?
No, this is, I'm asking you a few questions just so I can be able to establish a foundation. So,
Right.
so
We had Black American Jews that went on the Atlantic slave trade. A lot of them was Jews,
where did they
and
come
a lot of
from?
them wasn't. A lot of them wasn't Jews.
Okay, where did they
Come
come
from
from?
Africa. They came from Africa.
They came, and how could you identify them as Jews?
You have to know the ways of them. Like if you sat down and ate with them, you would see them saying blessings before they eat, and you will see them washing their hands before they eat bread. You will understand that not every Black person was a Jew that went on the slave trade.
No,
But they was mixed up.
that's not what I'm saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking very
I'm not.
specific questions, and I know the
Yeah, I'm
reason why.
not debunking it or nothing. Yes.
No, one second, Moshe, because you asked me a few questions. So now I'm just asking you a few questions just so I can be able to establish a foundation here. So when we say
Go ahead,
Deuteronomy, okay, so when we say Deuteronomy 28 and 68, can you identify specific people who you could be able to say fit that description for me?
What I get out of that scripture,
No,
that
not what
happened
you
in
get out of
physical.
it. Can you identify people who you say fit that description?
Everybody that's an Israel, everybody that's an Israelite, everybody that's a Jew fits that description.
Is Israelite and Jew the same thing?
Yes.
It is. In what sense?
All the 12 tribes, all the 12 tribes went through the same persecutions. All the 12 tribes, even the European Jews in the Holocaust in Europe, everybody went through the same.
I'm not trying to be comfort. I'm really asking because you're not really answering any of my questions. I tried to answer yours as much as I can't establish a foundation until I understand where you're really coming from. I mean, you deflecting and going all these places. It won't help me to be. I'm trying to really establish a foundation so I can really understand you. I think you understand me because I've been on the.
You said who those people identify with. This is what you're trying to ask me. Who do people identify with? Am I right? This is what you're trying to ask me?
No. Who do you identify as the people who fit the description of what Deuteronomy 28 and 68 was saying? Who do you identify as those people? Somebody have to fit the description. Who do you think fit that description?
Anybody that's a Jew, anybody that's an Israelite fits that description.
So anybody who's an Israelite,
the thing is the way a Jew think, a Judaism think, we already think no matter whether you Black, white, Hispanic, or whatever color you may be, once you become a Jew, you're gonna get hated by majority of the world. It's just like I'm Black and I'm in Judaism or whatever. Most of my brothers will hate me for being in Judaism. Even though they consider me as an Israelite, they still gonna have hate because I am an actual Jew. So this is what it is.
I don't dispute anything.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you dispute it. I'm just saying that what comes with it, the hate that comes with being a Jew, you have to be ready for. Most of the people just want to claim Jew because of their skin complexion, but nobody's ready to go to war for Israel and stand up for the children that got blown up in Israel.
Moshe, but we're not talking about the same thing. I don't deny the fact that people experience hate. I don't deny the fact that people experience anti-Semitism. I don't deny the fact that people experience a lot of the other experiences that you're mentioning now. So I'll move forward from that question. I won't even deal with that.
It's not like an identification with us because we're Jewish by soul. We're not Jewish by flesh.
But let me ask you a question since you said that. All right. There's Ani Israel, there's B'nai Israel. You're talking about B'nai Israel. We're talking about who is Ani Israel. Your children are Ani you. Those are you. If you have kids, they're your kids. They come from you. If your kids start a gang and they all have the last name Boyd, now everybody's B'nai Boyd, right? But we talking about Ani Boyd. Are you Ani Yisrael or are you B'nai Yisrael? Are you asking Ashriel, is he Ani or is he B'nai? And what he's asking you, are you Ani or are you B'nai? Because what you're saying is you're B'nai Israel. He's asking you, are you Ani Israel or B'nai Israel? Which one?
Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu Echad. We are all
Yes,
one.
yes, that's the
So at
Shema.
the
We
end
got
of the
that.
day,
Are
what I
you
say,
Ani
the Shema,
Israel or are you
you
B'nai
asking me,
Israel? Which
this
one
is the
are you?
problem. That's why we will have a conflict, because you want a conflict.
No,
We
no, no,
don't
no, no,
have to
no.
have a
It's not a
conflict.
conflict
We
because
are
when
all,
we went to
you
Mount
saying, you
Sinai,
telling me
we
the
went
truth.
there as
You
a
telling me
mixed
the truth
multitude.
from a,
When we came
we
out
all
of
one.
Israel, when we came out of Egypt, when we came out of Mizraim, we came out a mixed multitude. So we were never alone to begin with. We were always B'nai Israel, but we were also always Ani Israel. We came out a mixed multitude. We got the Torah at Mount Sinai, a mixed multitude. We've been a mixed multitude ever since. That has never changed. So if Ashkenazim want to say they're Israel, fine. I have no problem with that. I used to have a problem with that when I was, I guess you could say, ignorant in my ways. I have no problem with that now. The only
You
problem
going
I
over
have
for
is
race, my brother. That's what it
the
is.
only
And
the only
you,
issue that I have is them claiming Ani Israel when I'll say for your sake firmly believe that I am Ani Israel and they are B'nai Israel, right?
but
So
that's your
do I
heart
see
that believes that. And that's
I got you.
entitlement.
Do I see a hatred in that? No. Is there a problem in that? Yes. Is
It's
there
a
a hatred
deception
in
in
that?
that.
No. Now the question is, for the purposes of where you're coming from, because you are actually the one who's coming in a divisive energy. So because you're coming in a divisive energy, the question is, do you identify as Ani Israel or B'nai Israel? Because looking at your skin color and the skin color of the other three people on here, myself included, we're Ani
Like I
Israel.
said,
And so are
I'm
you.
both.
But the
I
question
need
is, do you
Israel,
believe that?
B'nai Israel. That's Hebrew. That's the holy tongue. I say B'nai Israel when I say prayers every day. I
That's
need
excellent.
Israel.
So
You can
I'm going to
say
go ahead and
Saturday.
say I'm going to go ahead
What
and
do you
say
say?
you're B'nai Israel. You do not believe. I know you have the understanding. You've clarified that you have the understanding that we believe that from Deuteronomy 28 and 68, coming off the transatlantic slave trade, we are the chosen nation of Israel who has been cursed to come into the African diaspora, claim the name. We are Ani Israel. We are the true children of Israel. And
None of that really matters.
the
That's the
Ashkanim
thing.
are
There's
cosplaying
no
as
foundation in that.
Ani Israel. The question is, why do you feel
You have
like
no foundation in that. It's like you building a house with
so
no
we're coming out with
foundation.
some truth. All right, yeah, Ashrael, you could take it. We've established this. We've established as a foundation. It's all yours now, bro.
Just by feeling like that, you
Okay, so
lost
the reason
already
why I was asking Moshe
with your heart.
now I think we've established a foundation because you were asking me what makes me think that I am who I am, right? And I told you that
Right.
I'm very strong in the foundation of the knowledge of who I am and my heritage and my history, you know, not and but you were talking about something else. You were not talking about specifically about the heritage, the history, the identity. You were talking about specific subscription to, I would say, you know, in your opinion, probably, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and then I could be able to have a greater picture. Are you saying that the only way that I can be able to identify as an Israelite is if I subscribe to the rabbinical traditions?
Correct.
Based on what?
Based on the laws that was given to Moses.
So the laws that were given to Moses, okay, can you identify that for me in the Torah? Where does it say that I'm an Israelite if I subscribe to the rabbinical traditions?
It doesn't say that specifically.
So, okay, where
Now,
does it
in the
allude to
Torah,
that anywhere?
well, who's God's firstborn son? Exodus 4, chapter 22. It's 12 tribes for a reason. It's 12 months for a reason. And his sons are the ones that grasp the wisdom and understand.
Moshe, we're not talking about the
So
same thing, my brother. I apologize that I keep cutting you off because I'm really trying to establish an understanding here. I'm not really understanding you.
why
I'm
would
not
you
sure.
keep
I'm not
cutting
sure if
me
I'm
off
making
and I'm
myself
trying to
clear.
explain?
Huh?
Why you keep cutting me off and I'm trying to explain is what, like,
Because
I'm talking about souls.
you diverting from the question, so I'm not having the chance to be able to really understand. But I don't want to belabor the point. My point is basically, and this is the fundamental point that I'm trying to make to you, is that my identity, and that's why I was asking you, do you subscribe also to the Torah, right? But you was jumping in between.
Yes.
I asked you where in the Torah does it say that I have to subscribe to the oral traditions, and you said that Abraham first son. I don't know where that come from, but nonetheless, okay. I
God's
understand.
first son first son is Israel.
Okay.
The forefathers is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We
I
follow their ways.
know that, but I was asking you a totally different question in regards to the oral traditions. That has nothing to do with the Torah. But okay, let's move forward from there. When we look at
Abraham name
Genesis,
equals 248. And we have 248 organs in a man.
No problem. When we look at Genesis 15 and 13, can you establish who that is talking about, please?
Let's say it again.
Are you familiar with the chapter Genesis 15 and 13?
You could pull it up, I see.
Rob, can we pull that up, please?
What is it talking about?
We're gonna pull that up. I just, I'm sitting here patient. I got tea brewing. I'm really enjoying the dialogue. I think this is good. Sometimes, we lock heads and we disagree, but it's still good because we gain an opportunity to get an understanding for one another. I heard Brother Moshe throw out a number of terms that begs me to just kind of pick your mind and just find out where you are, because you speak from a place of humility. I want to say, but there's also some things you say that imply a lot of learnedness. So, naturally, me being a person that is apt to this type of build, I'm going to engage and ask you certain things. So when you say, Moshe, that there are 248 positive mitzvot, where are you getting that from?
Getting it when I put on my TVs every day. And I say a blessing before I put them on.
No. No, that's not what I'm asking you. Let me be a little clearer. Where do you get the idea that there are 248 positive commandments?
Every Jew that's a Jew, we always say these blessings in the morning, and it's the scripture saying that it's the 248 organs. It's connected. Right to the 248 mitzvahs. It's 365.
Right, but I'm saying, what's the source of that? Where do we find that? Where would I go to find that?
Oh, and our Siddur. We have a Siddur, and it's right in the beginning of the book of the Siddur.
Okay, so let me say something to you. The source for that is the Gemara, the Talmud. The statement is made by Rabbi.
You can get it from there. You can get it from. You're going to get a different breakdown, like the Mishnah.
Hold on one moment, good brother. Because you mentioned the source is the Siddur. I'm telling you the source of that statement, and I'll even give you an opportunity since you assume
there's many sources.
So no, there's literally one source in the oral tradition where that comes from. So where is the source of that statement? That's what I'm asking you.
I don't know.
It's okay to say you don't know if you don't know. It's okay.
I don't know. I know it's okay to say that I know, because any man that thinks he knows everything is a fool. My thing is that.
So do you know the source?
That's it's many. You know why the Torah is a living organism, and as many sources in the Torah that break.
Moshe, one moment. Rather than walk me around circles, you could simply answer the question by saying you know the source or you don't know the source. So my question to you is, where in the oral tradition is that source? Where is that source? Moshe?
Just like if you add up Abraham's name.
Moshe, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so where can we go in the oral tradition and find that? Where is it?
You could find it in the Mishnah. You could find it in the
Okay, so it's not in the Mishnah,
the
good brother.
analogy.
It's not. It's
I
not in
got
the
I got
Mishnah.
the analogy of the Torah in Genesis. You can
Okay.
find it in Genesis and anthology
So
Torah.
so let me just tell you something.
Neil Mas.
The anthology Torah, you're referring to the commentary by Rabbi Ari Kaplan. That's what you're talking about.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna show
So
you
what
the
you're
book
talking
right
about?
now. Because
Okay,
I'm gonna
so
show you the book right now since I
the,
think you know
the
everything.
hold on,
Nobody
hold
that know
on.
everything.
All right. So while we're waiting for him, there's a reason why we ask people these questions, and there's a reason why when you come on any platform or when you engage with anybody, and you speak from a place of yes, open it up, good brother Moshe, open it up.
And this is the
open it up.
second one.
Open it up.
Okay.
Yeah, open it up and show us the source. This is going to be interesting. I want everybody to use the moment as a learning example, as Brother Moshe pulls the source. And we won't engage in anything else until he shows us, because we're going to learn something really important in this moment. I'm sitting here patient, and believe you me, guys, I know what I'm doing. I wanna see where's the source for that statement, because when you lord ideas over the heads of people. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right. The 248 limbs, the total 30 bones in the sole of the foot, 6 in each toe equals 60, 10 in each ankle equal 20, 2 in the lower part of each leg equal 4, 5 in each knee equal 10, 1 in each thigh equal 2, 6 in each in the hips, 11 pairs of ribs equal 22, 30 in each hand, 6 in each finger equal 60, 2 in each forearm equal 4, 2 in each elbow equal 4, 1 in each upper arm equal 2, 4 in each shoulder equal 8, 18 vertebrae in the spine, 9 bones in the head, 8 in the neck, 6 in the chest, 5 in the orifices, 6 in each toe. Then 10 bones in the ankle, 2 in the lower leg, 5 in the knee, 1 in the thigh, and 3 in each hip. There are 11 pairs of ribs. The hand has 30 bones, 6 in each finger. There are 2 bones in the forearm, 2 in the elbow, 1 in the upper arm, and 4 in each shoulder. Yields the sum of 102 bones on each side, for a total of 204. Besides these, another 48 limbs. These include the 18.
Hold on one moment, Moshe,
These are
because
paralleling the 248 commandments together. I'm gonna say,
so
I'm just getting to the part where it's talking about the 248 commandments.
The question that I asked you, good brother Moshe, just to be clear, because I want to give you enough room to demonstrate what you're saying, right? The question that I asked you is, where in the oral tradition is the source that there are 248 positive commandments? Where can we find that?
In Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy says that there are 248 positive commandments?
That's correct. And 365 negative commandments.
Could you show me where? I'm going to pull up Deuteronomy.
That equals 613.
I'm going to pull it up now. Could you tell me where we go in Deuteronomy to find that?
I'm not sure, but when it starts on the commandments, go for the negative, and you're going to add up the power. You have to count them yourself. Okay, so let me say something to you, good brother. That's not the source in the oral tradition where it says that there are 248 positive commandments. But that's the written tradition. I say as many sources. The brother, okay. I'm trying to be really patient with you, brother. If you want me to match your energy, I can, but I'm just trying to be a brother to you. I really am. I'm trying to be a brother to you. I also realize that I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, but it's, you know.
Mordechai, when he said Deuteronomy,
hold on.
We really need to continue, bro.
Hold on. Ron, I'm going to take you off for a moment, just for a moment. So one thing we cannot do and we won't do is what's happening here. Like, we're all brothers, right? By the way, everybody, nobody's gone. Moshe can see me right now. I can see him. They just were lowered down. I didn't eject them. But I needed to say something. Also, good brother Ashriel is here, and it's 7. It's 9:44 p.m. in Israel for him, so he has to go soon. I want to give him the closeout. Moshe's going to come back. Ron Shivat's going to come back. We want to hear from those other brothers. But I want to say that we're about to learn a lesson in humility in a couple of moments when we return to the other screen. And that lesson is an important lesson because to come on this platform and assume that because you've converted to Judaism and your assumption is we don't know Judaism because we're just Hebrew Israelites, right? And then you start making points and ideas, you're gonna have an issue with that because you don't put yourself in a room with some elephants right now, and you're almost gonna embarrass yourself is what's gonna wind up happening as you're actually doing. Nowhere in the written Torah does it tell us that there are 613 commandments. Nowhere in the written Torah does it tell us that there are 248 positive commandments or 365 negative commandments. That idea is completely born out of the oral tradition. But you're just throwing out a lot of very lofty concepts without even the ability to source them, which you said earlier, even a 5-year-old knows this information. I'm looking at you. You look a little older than 5 years old. So I would expect that you know the sources for what you're saying. You see, when you get on this platform, I don't know about any other platforms. When you get on this platform and you come out of humility and you step into authority, that's fine. Just be able to walk in those shoes. That's all I'm saying. If you want to do that, do it. But make sure you're able to walk in those shoes, or else you're really gonna look crazy on this platform, right? So good brother Ashriel, I know it's 9:46 p.m. for you. I want you to close us out because I know that you have to leave soon. Unless you want to stay. It's up to you. I'll give you the option.
Well, I think lessons in humility are very important, Moray, because when I come into certain rooms, I know that I need to yield to those who may be a little more advanced than I am, a little more
Can I
knowledgeable
just
than
finish
I
my
am.
paragraph?
I'll let you in a second, Moshe. A little bit more knowledgeable than I am, in whatever topic, whatever subject. And I think that's a great thing because then it allows us to be able to continue to edify ourselves, to continue to grow in knowledge and in understanding. And so, I thought that we were going to be focusing on something very specific, but then, in everything, there's also a lesson. And I think that lesson is also going to be, taught in a second. But I do want to say that I think we hit on a lot of very important points today. I think that we established, a fundamental understanding of our geopolitical position historically and the foundation of it. And I think also that I pray at the least that we're able to give our brothers and sisters on the platform a bird's eye view of how we see things from in the land. Because I think it's very important that we understand that we are in the land experiencing one thing, but our brothers and sisters on the outside are not experiencing what we necessarily experiencing here. But at the same time, we can't see a lot of what you all are seeing from the outside in. So it's also very important for us to rely on on you all's perspective from the outside, so we can be able to have a greater understanding of how things look from the outside. And so, with matching those two together, given, a fundamental firm understanding of things from within, and also having a firm understanding of how things are looking from the outside, I think that gives us, another level of power because the fact that we're in the land and the fact that some of our brothers and sisters are not necessarily in the land and experiencing what we're experiencing, I think it's a very different experience. As a matter of fact, I know it's a very different experience. And so, I'm appreciative, Moray, that you allow us to be able to use this platform to be able to help to give a different perspective to our people. And I understand that some people who don't see things from our view, I understand why they don't see things from our view, and that's totally okay. And we need to discuss those things. But at the same time, I think that we do need to leave space to be able to continue these type of dialogues because it brings those sticks together. right? It allows us now to be able to complement each other from both ends. So I'm appreciative of you, Morey, and where Ron came in, it was a beautiful thing to hear from from Morey as well. That knowledge and that understanding. Even though you just coming into the understanding of a lot of things, you could very much hear from you that that you're somebody who have dedicated time and energy into studying, into understanding this. And also, Moshe, I'm as a brother, I'm gonna tell you, I like the fact that we are discussing these things with you. I don't like the fact that you are going to have to be a sacrifice for understanding a lesson in humility. But I do appreciate the fact that we're discussing, these things along with you, because you are not the first, and you're certainly not the last person who will come into a certain group because of some knowledge, because of some information, because of a way of life that you've adopted, and feel like now you're superior in the room to everybody else because you feel like you have a body of knowledge or of wisdom or of understanding because you've chosen the path to go in, that you believe that everybody now who is not on that path don't understand what it is that you're mentioning or have no idea of the path that you're now choosing to walk. So I'm appreciative of these type of conversations, but I don't think there should be confrontational. I think it's very important that we conduct these type of conversations, because then it allows us to be able to see the multitude of wisdom in the rooms, and I think we could all learn from each other. But my good brother Moshe, with the most humility, my suggestion would be to you, good brother, is that you do not approach any more of these type of conversations with the approach that you came into this room with, because not only do it change, but not only do it change the environment or the atmosphere, but it also puts you in position, to be kind of a controversial figure unnecessarily. Like there's no reason for controversy. We can build on these things, and like I told you, I live in the land with people from all walks of the Jewish life, right? We have a very good understanding. I'm very knowledgeable about these things, but when I ask you fundamental questions about about simple stuff and you don't give me an answer, you go all over the place. That gives me the impression that you are not sure about what it is that you're talking about. So I have a few more minutes, but I'm gonna just sit around and listen. But I do want to ask you, Moshe, just one more question, because Morey, you never brought that verse up. I was trying to tie in the Deuteronomy 28 and 68 with Genesis 15 and 13, so that I can be able to have a fundamental understanding of where Moshe was coming from when he was mentioning the fact that we have to be subscribing to the oral traditions in order to be able to identify as an Israelite. And I just wanted to understand from Moshe, who do he believe? Because the first thing that you had mentioned, the 28 and 68, he already said that refers to all Jews everywhere in the world. I was going to ask specifically about Genesis 15 to 13 as well.
What about it?
I was going to ask, who do you believe this is also speaking to? I mean, because it's also, again, it's very specific.
Genesis 13?
15 and 13.
What is the scripture about?
Can you bring it up, please? Okay.
I have the whole breakdown of Genesis in my hands.
No problem. We don't have to go with the breakdown. Can you just give me Genesis 15 and 13? Who is it specifically referring to in your eyes, please?
Hold on, let me get my Torah real quick. Hold on.
I thank you for your level of honor, humility and reverence for the word, good brother Ashriel. They say patience is a virtue, and one of the reasons why we especially have to have
What's that? It's
patience is
13
because
what?
we should believe
15
that
and
we
13.
are. One of the reasons why we
15 and
should have
13.
patience. Hold on one moment, brothers. I just want to make a statement really quick. I just wanted to acknowledge your patience and your level of honor in this moment, Ashriel. It's a powerful thing to witness. I think that we have to try our very best to initiate the spirit of humility and patience with one another, because we never know whom Hashem and whom Hashem's desire and will further and advance through. Right? We might interact with someone, and because of the spirit of that interaction, we may not necessarily know that that's someone that Hashem has for us. And so we
Live
have
it,
to
live, or live
struggle
by your
to,
words.
and this is a little out of
La
control.
Happy.
We have to struggle. Just hold on one second, good brother. I just want to make a statement before you interject. I think we should all make a concerted effort to try to be more humble with one another. The entire world is against us, and we're
Yes.
also against ourselves. That cannot be right. That makes no sense. When men get in a huddle, whether it's intellectually or physically, we tend to butt heads. When spiritual men butt heads, what should come from that are great ideas. What should come from that is a conception of how to grow, how to build, not to tear down and destroy one another. So I don't want the spirit of this dialogue to be lost because we haven't found that space where we're able to functionally interact. And I would adjure our good brother Moshe to be reminded that we here don't see you in any adverse way. And we
Right.
humbly request that you also don't see us in any adverse way, and that you try your best, as we will try our best, to interact as brothers.
Yes.
Okay.
Scripture now, 13. And he said to Abram, know with certainty that your offspring shall be aliens in the land, not their own, and they will serve them, and they will oppress them for 400 years. But also the nation that they will serve, I shall judge, and afterwards they will leave with great wealth. As for you, you shall come to your ancestors in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. In
No,
the
no, no.
fourth
That's good.
generation.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I just wanted 15 and 13.
Okay. Got
Can
15.
can you identify people who, in
Yes.
in in, in your understanding, huh?
Yes. The land was given to the Son of Man, which is the Gentiles. So every Jew, every Israelite is in the land that's not theirs. We are in the spiritual exile Egypt, in the land that's not ours, because it's our job to make this land holy so we could bring down the Garden of Eden, so have heaven on earth. That's the main mission. Majority of the world want to go to heaven, but we want to have heaven on earth. As the Judaism says. Yehi Shemei Rabbi Mubarak Le Olam Omei Omayah.
I speak perfect Hebrew and I understand Hebrew. Hebrew is my first language.
He may not know
All
that.
right.
He could.
Hebrew is my first
I'm
language.
not saying you. I never said you didn't. Or you would. All you had to do is reply Omein if you speak it. I didn't say you didn't.
Okay. Again, can you identify people who this, because this is specific, 400 years and enslaved and oppressed and strangers in the land that are not theirs. Okay, so let's say that
Even
Jews are.
in the like well, I'm gonna explain it right now. Egyptian exile and redemption, the exile of the four monarchies would be conditional on Israel deeds, and even if they come about, they will be centuries in the future. But before then, God now told Abraham there will be an exile that had to take place, and that would begin relatively soon. So
Okay, so
this was in those generations, and you're talking about, oh, it's pointing to the exile of the 400 years. If you say that you still in slavery right now, it already been past 400 years, so that prophecy is debunked.
okay, so I'm asking again, who do you believe this is referring to?
It's referring to the children of Israel, as the scriptures say.
The children of okay, I agree
The
with you.
children
Children
of
of Israel.
Israel is the
Where?
only it's only
Where?
10 million Jews on the census. About 15 million Jews on the census. Right? We only
On
fill
what?
up a state. We only fill up like a state. It's like big as New Jersey.
You
You
said
know?
is what?
It's
Can you
only
repeat that again for me?
we make up 1% of the human population, the Jew, the real Jews.
I understand, Moshe. I'm asking. Can you repeat that again? You said it's 10 million. What?
It's about 10 to 15 million Jews in the census.
10 to 15 million Jews.
Right.
Are you also?
And what happens is that we in a land that's not ours. Right now, the land was given to the wicked. It was
For
given
400
to Son of Man.
for 400 years.
He's talking about in that time, you will go into exile. This exile has to take place right now. He was talking to them in that time. He
So can
wasn't
you
talking
identify?
about people going on their own slave ships.
So can you identify? Okay, so
Every
can you
man
identify?
that died from their own sin.
Not a problem. So I asked two questions. Okay, so can you identify
So
those
there's one
people
thing
then?
that you don't do. We don't fight with
Okay,
history.
no problem.
Because
I'm asking you a different question, my great brother. Can you tell me the period of time then that was referring to that actually took place there in the Bible? During what period of time? When did this take place? This 400 years of enslavement, and that enslavement that had taken people into captivity on ships.
the people that got slaves on captivity don't have nothing to do with that scripture. Every man died from their own sin.
I yield.
Good yield, good brother. Good
Okay,
yield.
This is why we have the
yield.
conflict in Gaza and stuff like that. People feel like they could fight with history or what my ancestors went through. And that's history
More Moshe. One thing I will give you. Okay, you had two very good comebacks, right? Your comebacks were one, we've been in a diaspora, right? So by being in a diaspora, that kind of fulfills that prophecy. But it's, the diaspora has been, 1955 years, if I'm correct. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
trying to give
But
something
we
to you. And if y'all let me finish reading
hold
my
on
paragraph,
one second,
I
please.
really want to
One
go
second,
over
please.
word instead of my
Yeah,
heart.
right. The diaspora, since the exile, since the fall of the Second Temple, I believe it's been about 1955 years since that period. But as far as the 400-year period that has been here in the Americas, or even really since the transatlantic slave trade, that's a 400-year period. But you are correct. We're about 5-6 years past that. So I can understand why you would see that as being debunked, because we are 5 to 6 years past that. But you, my good friend, being of the Orthodox, you being Pardes Torah, right? Let's just call it what it is. You're Pardes Torah. Now, with Pardes Torah, and this is a minor understanding on my part, you do understand that even that 400-year period still does have a stretch to it, right? So even though it should be exactly 400 years, and if you want to go with that, even I agree with you. Even I agree that, okay, after 400 years, shouldn't that have been the cutoff point? You being of Pardes Torah, I don't know how learned you are, okay? You're more learned than I am, I could tell you that. But I could tell you who you're not more learned than. There's somebody on this platform here that I would assume you're not very aware of, either,
Everybody
Zion Lex
got their own
TV.
skill and purpose.
Yeah, I dig it. I don't know if you're aware of Zion Lex TV, or if you're aware of Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. I obviously assume you're not very aware of Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. But if you have any knowledge whatsoever of Zion Lex TV, I could guarantee you, out of the three of us that you are dialoguing with, one of these people could run about 100,000 circles around you with Pardes Torah. That is an absolute fact. You're more learned than me. As far as Pardes Torah goes, you're more learned than the brother Ashriel, who is more learned than all of us as far as the language goes. So every one of us got somebody beating something. Me, I'm the lowest guy on the totem pole. But I can
God bless
guarantee
you.
you.
You guys doing?
I can guarantee you when it come to Parday's Torah, there's somebody in this circle here that you cannot F with, bro. That is an absolute fact. So
It's not how
let's
much you know, it's how much you do. First
well,
and
true
foremost,
that. But it's
actions
also
speak louder
you
than
also
words,
do what
right?
you
For a
do
person
with how
to
much you
even
know.
come out the bathroom without saying a prayer, he has
I dig
nothing
it.
on me.
You,
For a
bro,
person that
you
doesn't say
are
a prayer
experienced
before he
in
drinks a
Parday's
sip of
Torah.
water,
Uh-huh.
he doesn't really have nothing on me, no matter how good he thinks he
Oh,
is, whether
brother.
he's evil
Brother.
or
Look here.
righteous.
I could go
You
up to
know what I'm
Shaq and
saying?
say,
Because
I could go up to
there's
Shaq and
so
say, bro,
many
just
simple
because you
things that
7 foot
people think,
whatever, you
right?
can't dunk better
If
than
you
me,
can
but
let
that's
me
just a
talk, my
damn lie,
brother.
bro. You feel what I'm saying? He could tear the goal down.
If
I'm
you
gonna
can
need a ladder.
have a chance to let
It's
me
just a
talk.
fact. Okay. So check it out. Check it out. Right. Let's take this situation and let's try to steer it back to
It's
the
not how
original
much you know.
conversation.
It's a bunch of
I
people
dig it.
that
I
know
dig
a
it.
lot that
I dig
don't.
it. I don't want to belabor that point. Okay, but let's take this situation and
Nobody
let's
knows
try to
anything.
steer it back to where we originally started in the first place. We're talking about the war in Israel.
I want to read my
Now,
paragraph, just it, and then you get
okay, you can
into
read the paragraph in a minute. We're talking about the war in Israel, right? So, what I have learned from listening to, we'll say, Rabbi Ephraim Pavanel, okay, Israel, when it was given in 1948, that actually matched a Kabbalistic. I can't think of what's the word right now. Maybe you can help me. When you're talking about the numbers, what's that called again? When you're dealing with the numbers, what is that with the numbers?
Hold
When
on,
you
hold
add
on,
the numbers.
hold on one moment. Let me make a point. I have a brief question to
the
ask good brother
Hebrews
Moshe.
connected to numbers. So it's the mantra.
Just a brief question,
Gotcha.
brother.
Thank you.
Just a brief question and a brief point I want to ask brother Moshe. I was searching for something to kind of help the dialogue, and I see it here. So the heart of brother Ashriel's question to you, brother Moshe, is who do you see fit the curses of Deuteronomy 28, which brought you guys to Genesis chapter 15?
Anybody that converts to Judaism and
And
anybody
he,
that's a born Jew.
hold on one moment. Let me just finish the thought. And that brought you guys to Genesis 15, and he asked you, who is that talking about? So I also asked you the same question. In Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 through 16, are you saying that this is referring to the captivity of Egypt alone, that it cannot be used to reference anything else?
No, it's a spiritual connection,
I'm listening.
right? So what happens is Abraham, the seed was going to come through Abraham. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the seed was chosen was Israel. And
Okay.
anybody that is connected to that covenant, which you have to, like if you buy a house, you get a covenant, you get a covenant,
Yes.
you get deeds. Right.
Yes.
So you connect to this covenant or whatever, which makes you a convert. And the conversion means to connect as one. It's like a full circle. So you connect and you convert it to it, just like you bond and wires together in electricity. And you convert to the intellect of a Jew.
Right. So
And
again,
you will
the
go, and
question though
once you follow
is this
God's
passage
ways,
applied
they will hate
to
me because they
Egypt
hate.
alone?
They said they will hate you because they hate me.
You're not responding to
That's how
my
you know.
question. Oh, good
Can
brother.
I cut him with the 400-year thing real quick, please?
Please, 1 second, please. I've been very patient, very
See, I
silent.
see
Just
I
allow me to
got
get this done.
elephants in here. I ain't see one yet.
Hold on, Ron. Let me just respond and be able to get him to actually answer the question.
I can't
My
even read my
question for you.
paragraph. Where's the
My question for
humility
you. I'm actually running out of patience, good brother, and I'm trying to be cool with you. But I said to you, if you want us to match your energy, we can. Is that what you want? You let me know.
I'm patient though. I'm patient with
Okay,
you guys.
so my question to you now is: are you saying that Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 through 15, only apply to the Egyptian captivity? That's my question for you.
No, it's not even just Egyptian captivity. It's a
Okay,
spiritual thing.
so that's the point that Ashriel was making. He was saying that Genesis chapter 15, verses 15 through 38, as well as Deuteronomy 28, has an application that fits this people here in this country that were brought to the Caribbean, that were brought to the Isles of the Caribbean Sea, that was brought to North and South America, that was brought to Canada and the UK, what would be problematic about that based on that scripture in Torah?
Everybody went through slavery. Yeah, not the only people that went through slavery.
Yes, I'm listening.
You know, so it's certain people.
And by the way, when you say
Jews
y'all not the only people that went through slavery, are you not us? I'm just trying to figure something out.
None of y'all. Yeah, I come from like a background. I'm from the Bronx. I come from poverty, and I always knew.
Yeah.
Even
So where's
growing up
your
in
family
poverty,
from,
not
brother?
every brother is my brother. It's a
Where's
lot
your
of
family
black
from?
brothers killing each other. So it's no Jews killing each other and killing other Jews. That
Well,
doesn't
brother, where's
go
your
down.
family from? Just trying to figure out, because you made a statement that
From
distance you from us.
Mississippi, California, and New York.
Okay, so your family definitely came through the transatlantic slave trade.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us back to the point that's being made here. So the question then is, what is problematic about what he's saying as far as the transatlantic slave trade being descriptive of what we're reading in Genesis 15 through 38, as well as Deuteronomy 28? And you said, I am not like y'all. My family is not. You made a difference between yourself and us, lineage wise and people wise, which forced me to, try to figure out, are you trying to say we have no relationship? Huh?
No, it's spiritual wise. I don't do what the Gentiles do.
Who are the Gentiles?
People that is not Jewish.
And who would that be on this live stream?
All of you three.
All of us are Gentiles in your eyes, and this is what you truly believe?
Well, I'm a Jew in your eyes, no matter what. I'm a Jew in the Judaism eyes, no matter what. That's why I'm the real Jew.
So this is why I said to you, the Hebrew Israelite paradigm is not a monolith, because I also identify as a Jew.
But what makes you a Jew?
What makes me a Jew is that I have faith. Hold on. I will tell you. Hold on, brother. You asked me a question. Okay, I've run out of humility. Until next time, good brother. With all due respect, until next time. So we're gonna close out with brother Ashriel. I've run out of humility. I didn't remove the brother. He's still down behind the stage because I'm gonna actually talk to him after the live stream to see if I could get a real conversation from him, or if this is just for YouTube that he's given this kind of energy. But this don't make no sense, and this platform is too sacred for me to treat our audience to this. We don't do what everybody else does. We don't do the monkey show. We don't do the circus show. We are really real about spreading this truth. And I'm not in the business of trying to make my brother look bad, and I'm definitely not in the business of having my brother try to disrespect me with this passive aggressive energy. That's not cool at all. So I'm gonna check the brother's temperature when we get off the live stream and actually have a brother to brother conversation with him to just figure out whether that energy was for YouTube or whether this is who he really is. And also, give him the opportunity to come back on. I'm actually interested in interviewing the brother. Maybe he has something powerful to share with us, And in fact, I'm gonna be so genuine in a moment that I'm gonna make sure that we're being real. I didn't inject the brother. The brother's still here. But I think that we're having a communication problem. And I think that maybe our energies began wrong. Maybe he isn't familiar with this platform. So maybe he may assume we're like everybody else. And those things can happen. So we're going to try to work it out to where I can bring you back on. I'm going to just keep yourself muted for a moment, Moshe, because you and I are going to have some closing words live on the live stream. I want Ashriel. All right, thank you. I want Ashriel to close us out for himself, because again, he's been patiently waiting all the way in Israel. It's now 10:14 p.m. where he lives. So I want to close that brother out correctly. And then I'm going to close out with good brother Moshe. And I'm also going to bring in Ron Shiva. I think this has been a good show. Listen, when brothers get together, we disagree. For those of you who know the oral tradition, what do you think the Rabbanim and Chachamim, the rabbis and sages of the oral tradition did? When you open the Gemara, you find disputes. You find objection, you find rejection to ideas, you find debates, right? We know that the earliest schools of thought, the Zugot, the earliest periods, Not only did they debate, but sometimes those debates came to blows. That's what happens sometimes when you have very spirited dialogues. It goes that way sometimes. But if we truly say we in living and we embody Torah, and we truly believe that we are part of Israel, that we are Yehudim, we are a Yehudi, then we should be able to come back to a place of humility and brotherhood, no matter what. So the honor is yours, good brother, to close this out for you. And then I'm going to allow good brother Moshe to have some final words. And I'm actually going to bring him back on an interview. What we're not going to do is shun people because we disagree. And we're not going to shun people because we initially don't lock heads the right way. Because if that happens, we lose out on opportunities that I think that that Creator presents for us. Who knows what's to spawn from this? But I tell you this, as far as I'm concerned, anybody that enters my sacred space is there for one of two reasons. Ashriel, it's on you.
So, Morey, I'm gonna give some closing remarks in Hebrew first, and then I'll just translate what it is that I'm saying, if that's okay with you. קודם כל מאוד מאוד חשוב לנו להתארגן יחדיו ולדבר כאחים. אני חושב שזה מאוד מאוד חשוב שאתה מאפשר לנו את ההזדמנות לדבר פה בפלטפורמה הזאת על דברים שמאוד חשובים, ומאפשרים לנו גם כן כל אחד מאיתנו לקבל פרספקטיבה שונה, גם לגבי האחים שלו, אבל גם בכלל לגבי כל מי שהם חברים או אחים בעם ישראל, חברים או אחים בזרע ישראל, חברים או אחים שהם לא גרים בישראל, אבל שהם רוצים להיות קשורים לאחים ולאחיות שלהם שפה. אנחנו נגענו בהמון נקודות מאוד מאוד חשובות, ואני מקווה שאנחנו נמשיך ונבנה על הבסיס שאנחנו הכנו היום, כי אני חושב שזה מאוד 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 חשוב, לא רק לאנשים שנמצאים פה בשיחה עצמה, אבל אלא לכל האנשים שמאזינים לנו גם כן. And what I said was that I think it's very important for us to get together and have these type of conversations on these type of platforms. Because I think it's very important for us to be able to get different perspectives from each of our brothers, and for each of us to be able to also contribute to a different understanding in the minds of each of our brothers. Whether you are in Israel, not in Israel, you identify as an Israelite, you identify as a Jew, you are Hebrew, it's very important for us to gather together to have these type of conversations, and not only in specifically about or between us, but it's more so for the people who are listening, the people who are interested, the people who are trying to get a different perspective, who are trying to get a different view, the people who are just becoming knowledgeable or exposed to your platform. I think is super duper important for us to continue these type of conversations, because once again, it gives us the opportunity to be able to give a perspective. Before we got into the conversation with Moshe, it gives us the opportunity to be able to give a perspective from in the land, and then hear a perspective from outside. Because I don't see and I don't understand as much as you all see and understand from the outside how things look, how things seem to be, what is being said, what is being pushed, what is being understood. But you all also don't know too much about what's taking place in the land, what is being said, what is being understood, how people are carrying themselves, what are the different perspectives, what are the different ideologies? Because Israel, not only the nation of Israel, but also the state of Israel, and everybody who resides in the state of Israel are not a monolith either. So it's important to be able to get these perspectives from inside and from the outside for us as brothers but also for those who are listening to us. So, More, I appreciate you for continuing to edify the people with this platform, and please continue to do so. And I'm your little brother, so whenever you want me back on a platform, I would be more than happy to come back. And I want us to continue to build on this, in front of our people. By the way, More, but I got a bone to pick with you, and I'm gone. I still haven't gotten my certificate.
Yeah, you definitely gonna fry me. Your certificate.
Hey, look, I've been checking.
Oh, we honored you. Yes, we honored you. Yes. That'll. I didn't email that to you. It's probably in the email, queued up, but probably not sent because I believe I sent it to you. I thought I'm waiting on this whole time for you to respond. So my apologies.
Haven't received.
Yes. We honored you live. We have a certificate for you, and we're gonna make sure that you get it. Absolutely. My apologies, good brother. For a moment there, you stopped me. I'm like, huh? I'm really good with those things, but yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I appreciate you, More, and I appreciate all the listeners, and I appreciate my brother Moshe. Even though Moshe, and I need you to look at me as a brother. Even though you may not see yourself as one of us, I see you as my brother and definitely one of us. Not because of skin color, not because of the difference despite the differences in ideology and in understanding, you are still my brother because one, our ancestors experienced the same exact thing. Our ancestors yearned to return to Zion when they were picking cotton in those fields, when they sang songs about beyond the Jordan and Canaan's land and walking in the land like Jesus, they say. And a lot of these other things, they were hoping and praying for that day that those things actually materialize in real life. And so we're on this side experiencing that in real life, but you're still on that end. But you are my brother. If you don't see me as your brother, we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that. I want to also have a conversation, a continued conversation with you. But I want to let you know on the platform in front of everybody, despite everything, brother, you are my brother. I don't have any, bad thoughts about anything that was conducted here. I think it was a learning experience for us all. So,
Alaikum shalom.
Shalom aleichem, my brother. Means peace be unto you for all of those who are listening.
Thank you so very much, good brother Ashriel. Until next time, get some good sleep, and may Hashem continue to cover you and your family. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, God bless you. Baruch Hashem.
Thank you.
Shavuot Tov.
Shavuot
All
Tov.
All right. Good brother Moshe. I definitely want to have you back on. I'm gonna actually interview you with your permission. I'd like to interview you. Would you accept that?
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay.
I mean, well, anytime after work or whatever, you could
Yeah.
message
Absolutely.
me.
Absolutely. Where, if you don't, I don't need you.
Just to finish this paragraph, but if I can,
yes, you can. But just hold on one moment. I don't want your address, and I know you don't have any intention of giving your address, but I just want to know, where in New York are you?
Queens, New York.
We're gonna link up. Let's link up, man. I'm not far from you at all. I'm literally 15-20 minutes from Queens, any part of Queens, by the way. So I would definitely say that we should link up in person and have a one-on-one. Just sit down and just have a conversation. You can read your
you are you mobile?
Yes. Oh yeah. Definitely mobile.
Okay.
Yeah. So read off your passage that you'd like to read off, and then from there let's have a good closeout.
Okay. Paralleling these 248 limbs are 248 commandments in the Torah. Each limb announces, observe a commandment with me so that I will live long. There are also 365 prohibitions in the Torah, paralleling 365 days of the solar year. Each day, from sunrise to sunset, a heavenly voice announces to man, take it upon yourself not to sin on this day, so as not to tilt the world to the side of liability. The world is in a state of equilibrium between good and evil. Even a minor sin can upset this equilibrium toward the side of evil and cause great damage. Like man, the earth is also divided into 248 parts, with a head, eyes, mouth, and other limbs. It also has 365 arteries. Every time a person observes a commandment, he sustains one of his limbs as well as a part of the world. It is for this reason that man is called a microcosm. He is a miniature universe having in him everything that exists in the world. Some people argue that man is inferior to the other animals since he does not have natural weapons as they have. The ox have its horns, the lion has its powerful teeth and claws. The same is true of many other animals. Furthermore, animals do not have to toil for their food. They find their way. They find what they need wherever they go. They also do not need clothing since they have adequate natural protection. If man is the most important and perfect of creatures, why was it decreed from heaven that he should have to be concerned about his food? So I just wanted to read that because I wanted just to say that instead of pointing the finger, blaming other people, as men, we should take full accountability of our actions so we can live a longer life, as the commandments is not bad for us, that is good for us. The whole 613, even if we can't fulfill all of it, we try our best to live long and serve God.
We are absolutely in agreement there, good brother. No disagreement there. The commentary that you're reading is expounding upon the 613 commandments as it can be broken down into 248 positive mitzvot, 365 negative mitzvot, which correspond to the 248 bones and ligaments in the human body and the 365 veins and sinews, as well as the 365 days of the solar year. The source for that teaching is Rabbi Simlai. That comes from the Talmud in Tractate Makot, 23b through 24a. Rabbi Simlai says, and I'm reading it from the screen, there were 613 mitzvot, commandments stated to Moshe in Torah, consisting of 365 prohibitions corresponding to the number of days in a solar year and 248 positive commandments corresponding to the number of a person's limbs. So this good brother would be the source. Rabbi Simlai is the first one on record in our tradition to ever go on record to state that there are 613 mitzvot and that there are 248 positive and 365 negative. So that's the actual source. But more than that, I'll say to you, good brother, that I look forward to interviewing you because I want to hear about your story. I think your story is very remarkable. You began, as you said, as a Hebrew Israelite, and then you converted into Judaism. A lot of people want to hear your story. Whether people are going to agree with it, I think is null and void.
I never joined the camp, but I was interested. I looked at a lot of videos and things.
Yeah.
I actually came from a gang, more gang banging than anything that got me connected to the Torah.
We have a lot in common. How old are you, if I may ask, good brother?
I'm 36.
You're 36. We have a lot in common. I'll be 46 in November. We probably we probably have a lot of mutual friends. New York City is big, but it's small.
Yeah, so it's like, I've been doing that. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead, bro.
No. There's a lot that we may have in common, and even though obviously we bumped and clashed a little bit, I got on my big boy shorts. I'm sure you do as well. Meaning we're men. That's what men do, right? Yeah. Men should be able to bump heads, and why take it personal?
Bump heads without any
nobody take it personal. So I think that you have something. Absolutely, I think that you have something to offer. I think people really would love to hear your story. I know I would love to hear how this journey began of yours and why it is that you chose to come into conversion, what that process was like. And when we come off the live stream, please, if you can, email me at zionlex@gmail.com or 613learntorah@gmail.com. From there, I'll give you my phone number and we'll schedule an interview for you at your earliest convenience, anytime, any day of the week, obviously except Shabbat or any holy day. And
Zion
we can,
with two X's or
yes, just as you see on the screen above, Zion Lex, 2 X's at
at
Gmail.
at Gmail. At Gmail.
Yes, at
Okay, that's
Gmail.
easy to remember.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
you'll be a great
Yeah, no
interview, good
problem.
brother. All right. I definitely want to hear your story. I think people are going to enjoy your story. And I think that that'd be your opportunity
Likewise, and
to really
I
reach
don't
out
want
and,
to offend nobody because
uh-huh,
when I'm asking the question, I come from that believing that to it. So it wasn't like I'm trying to like I wasn't like trying to debunk anybody like how they feel. I just want to know like they side just like they want to know my side.
exactly. Exactly.
You
You
know,
know,
I like everybody have this connection to Hashem. It doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as you
yeah.
have that connection and that spark. So it's like, it's interesting just to even converse.
Absolutely. I think what we will find through dialogue is that there are possibly a lot of areas that we have a lot of agreement in. I
Oh
don't
yeah, most
hold a
definitely.
lot of the views that the greater community does. I have views that are diametrically opposed and very different from a lot of Israelite circles. Most Israelites laugh at me and they call me Jewish because of my views. So I'm going to interview you by the may it be the will of Hashem, Bezeret Hashem, may it be His will, and we're gonna have a great conversation. So I look forward to it. I want you to give our audience any closeout words, and then we're gonna hear from Brother Ron Shivat. So close us out with any words of inspiration, anything you'd like to say.
But I want everybody to have a blessed week. Shavuot Tov. I don't want to say too much. Just Shavuot Tov. May God bless you all and bless your year with many crops and health and wealth, so you can take care of your family and serve Hashem better every day and take care of your body. Hang your here so may it be the will of God.
Bless and receive, good brother. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you, man. Don't forget, link me so that I can get your info. All right.
All right, no problem, bro. Let me just get my stuff together. My son just came from school,
All right.
and
All
I'm
right.
gonna just send you a message.
Look at that. You got a son. God bless you, good brother. Baruch Hashem. Take
Yeah,
care.
I
All
got
right.
a son and a daughter. Thank God, Baruch Hashem. Thank
Baruch
you.
Hashem. Look at that. Exactly. All right, brother. Take care.
Yeah, blessed be the name. Oh yeah,
Blessed be His
blessed be the
name.
name.
All right. All right. Ron, it's on you, man. You know, you jumped on the stream. I know you jumped on with energy, like, man. But you know what, Ron? And I hope you don't think that I was just holding you like we ain't gonna have you speak. You know I'm not gonna do that. But I just was trying to find the balance. And sometimes it could appear like we're huddling up on the brother. And as a result, he may want to get defensive. So you kind of gotta isolate people, put this one in that corner, that one in that corner, so that a person lets down their defense. Because if I'm on a completely new and different platform and everybody's coming at me for whatever reason, I got my defenses all the way high. So at that point, I just kind of push everybody in the corner. So it was nothing towards you, Ron, but let me shut up. Any last words that you want to say with regard to the brother, the experience of the topic that we initiated the conversation with, as well as any closing words? It's on you, good brother.
Yeah, I wish we had more time because I actually wanted to use that last part as a moment to try to steer it back to the actual topic and use some Pardes Torah to try to ask some questions about the current war. But it's 3 hours in, and I know people got things they got to do. I will say that was a horribly burning plane, and the passengers were all in distress. But you landed it very well. That was a great job. If the brother, I don't know how he even came across this platform. I meant to say disarray. I said disarray. Disarray was the word I meant to use. But anyway, I don't know how the brother even came across this platform. But if I'm a little confused because I can understand him asking Mori Ashriel his position, being that he is basically of the Karaite doctrine. It's Torah only. We only do Torah. We don't do quote unquote rabbinic Judaism. But if he's at all aware of Zion Lex TV, then he's got to know that, you do, Torah with Rav Mordechai, every week except for the past however long it's been. See, now this is why. Now you see, you put in the chat, this is why I charge for classes, right? There's business, and there's service, right? Business is necessary, service is mandatory. See, you ain't been on your job, right? You ain't been on YouTube letting the people know that there are Pardes Torah Israelites out here. Not everybody is a Torah only Israelite or a One West Israelite who speaks Lashawan Kadash. There are actually Israelites who teach that, hey, that whole thing that the quote unquote Jewish community does, they were taught that from Israelites, which is why they do it, right? They're only doing what they were taught to do. And so because history has given it to, or rather the Most High has given the Torah to them to hold down until we got back to it, everybody's thinking that, well, that's just Jewish. The 60s really burned a hole in the Israelite community because Rabbi Matthews already had this locked down. The 60s burned a hole in that. You are trying your damnedest to bring it back. And little does he knows, you're the black sheep of the Israelite community. You just explained to him that, I don't know if he understands it or not, but you're the black sheep of the Israelite community. He has no idea how many arrows are pointed at you because you do Pardes Torah, and everybody calls you a Jew for it, because everybody else, in my opinion, is, well, bigoted. They're bigoted against Ashkenazic Jews, and of course we know why, et cetera, et cetera. It actually took you in class that one night telling me, right, well, let the Jews have their culture. I'm like, let them have their culture. Why they get to have their culture, et cetera, et cetera. Took some time for me to iron that out, but I get it now. I fully understand why it's not a big deal for them to have their culture, because we are all still B'nai Israel regardless. We all do Torah regardless. If they want to wear their hat the way they wear it, or do their hair they want to do it, or wear their clothes they want to wear it, or dance in a circle, and I understand why they do that now, or however they do what they do, that's not a big deal. Why? Because they're still keeping Torah. And that's what matters. They're keeping Torah. Okay? I understand now why you wear clothes the way you wear them, right? Why you're not quote unquote cultured like everybody else. Because you don't have to be. Why? Because you keep Torah. So you don't have to dress up in African garb, and you're not a One West Israelite, so you're not going to wear warrior's garb, right? But you keep Torah. So if you want to wear your hat to the back, cool. Why? Because your head is covered while you teach Torah and while you read the Torah. Your head is covered. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what's covering it. It's covered, right? Doesn't matter what you're wearing. Why? Because in your heart and in your spirit, you're teaching and keeping Torah. So the culture aspect of it is really on the individual. It's your spirit. It's Hashem connecting with you because you're connecting with him. That's all that matters. It took me a long time to get to that understanding, but I understand it now. I don't know if he's aware of your platform, but I don't think a lot of those questions, in my opinion, were necessary. But I get it. I understand where he's coming from and why he's coming from that way. I can't even say he's new to Judaism because he's pretty learned, right? He knows a lot more than I do. You know what I'm saying? So he's pretty learned. So I don't know how long he's been doing this, but it sounds like he's been doing it for a little while. But do I see self-hatred there? Yes, right? When you can't divide us and say you when you're us. When you're us, you can't divide that and say you when you're us, right? That is, well, I'm this and you're that. Well, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand why you're coming from that. And I'm not going to belabor the point because, like you said, you're going to interview the brother. You've already brought peace to the situation. So I'm not going to come in here and throw any bad seasoning back into a pot that you've already leveled out. I'm not going to do that. I just, hope that, that situation does find its directional landing point, right? What I will say to the brother, if he's either still watching or does watch this again, what the 400-year prophecy, even though we are 5 to 6 years past it, what he doesn't realize is when Israel was in Mitzrayim, they were only slaves for over 200 years. They weren't slaves for 400 years. We are still slaves for 400 years, even though it's been a little past that. They were in Egypt for 400 years, but they weren't slaves the whole time. So as learned as he is, a little more study is necessary. But also that's the problem with Ani Israel and B'nai Israel. Whether we want to say it's a problem or not, it is one. But again, I'm not going to belabor that point, right? Because Israel is Israel, and I'm learning how not to separate culture and skin color and all of that when it comes to Israel. But no matter what I say or do, I can't separate Ani Israel from B'nai Israel, because the Most High established that. I didn't do that. You feel what I'm saying? I wish the conversation could have lasted longer. I wish we could have gotten back to the actual point that we started. I know he definitely came in and changed the energy in the room, and that really diverted us from where we were actually going. Again, I wanted to use that as a point to use some Pardes Torah to talk about the war, but whatever, right? So, thank you for another moment on the platform. Baruch Hashem, Toda Rabbi, Shalom Yisrael. You know what I'm saying? I hope you and that brother have a good dialogue when you do have it. You know what I'm saying? And I hope he comes with a little humility. And I hope that what you just did before you let him off the live stream was show him that what I said earlier, that you will run circles around him with Pardes Torah. I hope that sunk in a little bit. So when he does come back, it's with a little more humility and understanding. He's not dealing with a Karaite, right? He's dealing with, oh, snap. Chief Ooze. DJ Chief Ooze in the building.
What's going
How you
on,
doing,
man?
sir?
What's going on, Chief?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good, man.
Hold
How
on
you
one
doing?
moment. I gotta give Chief the ultimate introduction.
Yes, sir. All day.
I didn't want to. I listened to the young man, and I know that Zion, you wanna interview him, and but I think that Rand hit something right on the head, the nail right on the head. The main issue, I never really have an issue with what people want to study, what they into, what they do, because at the end of the day, I feel like we're Israel. Whether we call ourselves Black Jews, you call the name of the Most High Hashem, Yahweh, whatever. I'd still look at all of us as Israel, because I know that at the end of the day, whatever bridge you used to come across is the bridge that you use. But what I notice about a lot of brothers, and I'm not saying all, because I know some brothers they get the knowledge and they don't forget who they are. And I think something very important that you said, Rand. It seems like the brother is rejecting his own people. That's my main issue with what he was saying, because when it got to the point about the Gentiles, he was a step away from saying that we were Gentiles.
He was a step away from saying we niggas.
You know what I mean? Basically, we weren't because you asked him, you said, well, where are your ancestors? Where are your people from? I believe he said Mississippi or the South, somewhere he said.
Yep.
So, basically, that's what connects us. The transatlantic slave trade, whether we got dropped off in the Caribbean, whether we got dropped off in the South, whether we got dropped off, wherever we got dropped off, that's what connects us. That's what makes Deuteronomy 28 and Genesis 15 and all those things a reality for us. But what I tend to see, and this has happened with some of the brothers that I know that have gone that route, and they get taught by certain Europeans. I'm not going to say all Europeans, but by certain Europeans, they somewhat get brainwashed to believe that we're no longer their brothers, and what we're talking about is gibberish, or we don't know what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that when he was reading, because obviously I knew he was reading off something when he was reading the whole 365, commands and 365 days. Then you come around us and you act as if you're smarter than us, and I'm glad that you were able to point out to him who was the rabbi that wrote that and who was the one who, because I'm like, we're not idiots, we're not stupid, we're not like retards. We might look at things differently, depending on where we come from, but at the end of the day, we know that we're all brothers.
That's
what I mean? And if we leave off with that, yeah, we can have difference in theology and opinions or whatever, but at the end of the day, we understand we Israel, and that prophecy fits us like a hand in glove.
Like
you know what I mean? So that's the only thing that I had with the young man where he's began to try to make that separation as if we weren't the same people, because we know at the end of the day, baby, when it's our number one identifier is our skin color. And I don't care if you wear a yarmulke, you wear a kippah, you wear a baseball hat to the side. They don't care about that.
That's right.
When push come to shove.
That's
so he has to understand and he has to learn that.
And I was going to say, Chief,
identification card is going to be always our skin color. That's what comes forward first.
That's a fact. Even looking at you, right? You're of Panamanian descent. You were born in Panama and immigrated to the United States. I've seen pictures of your family.
Because they might be ice
Trump. Ice might be hot on your tail, right?
But climate in America right now, they're gonna be chasing.
But even with you, using you as an example, remember, we learned under some of the same men, you and I.
Right.
You came into this way of life earlier than I. As you know, I came in 94. You came around circa 87, 88.
89.
89. But we learned from some of the same men. And one of our teachers, Prince Sapor, would always say to us, my heritage is unto me like a speckled bird. And he would use that passage to say Israel actually comes in many different colors.
That's right.
He would, you know how he would rhyme it from mellow yellow to deep sea blue, right? So even in your family, there are people that look very light. Just like, as you know, in my family, there are people that look very light.
Absolutely.
Right. And even with you, what's more interesting with you is, and a lot of people may not notice about you, but I know you personally, you speak fluent Spanish.
Right.
You know, you able to walk in the bodega and catch somebody slipping.
Absolutely. I've done that before.
You know, so again, Chief, you know, it's an honor. I gotta have another bill with you on YouTube, so let's figure out when we can do that. But,
definitely.
I think even though I disagree with the young brother, we disagree with the young brother. I just didn't want to end things off, you know, how it can go. I got what you're doing. You're very polished now. Yeah.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because back in the days, that would have been, you would have gotten, if you would have gotten the 10 years ago Zion, it might have been a problem. Why you don't know what you're talking about? Shut up.
Thank God for growth,
you exercise your patience and your I see the growth. So I was glad that you didn't spaz out and that you gave him an opportunity to say what he said. But you know, I wanted you to finish with him. I didn't want to jump in and kind of like throw off your whole thing. But I think that the young man has to first, this is what Rand said, he has a self-hate and he has to learn how to love himself first. And what I mean by loving himself, when he sees us, he got to see himself and us and not be brainwashed by anyone to make them believe. And I know that mentality because I know brothers like that.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I know brothers like that. And you know what ends up happening? I knew a brother like that, that he was up there with the Orthodox, and he was, you know, he couldn't pay his rent anymore, and they couldn't help him anymore, and he had to come back to brothers, you know, to help him move. And then he didn't even have money for storage. and he had to put all his stuff from, you know, his stuff for the you know, they got the dairy and the meat.
Right.
He had to put all that stuff in a brother's garage. And a brother, Israelite brother's garage, who was still there for him.
Look at that.
Even after they rejected him. They didn't tell him, you know, we're going to do a mitzvah for you and we're going to keep you in your apartment. And we go, no, you got to go. You can't pay the rent. You have to go. And he was living in the midst of them on Kingston Avenue.
Yeah.
They told him he had to go because what that tells you, you're not one of us. You know what I mean? You're not one of us. And I'm not trying to bring a separation, but that's what I took it as, because I looked at it like, man, you haven't been around me, or you haven't been around us. You know what I mean? And one of that same teacher that you spoke about, he had mercy, and he was like, you know what, Ooze, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? The Most High sees the goodness in our heart. He sees the goodness in our heart, because I was like, nah, man, don't let it. That dude been, you know, he talked junk about you. Could the man even talk junk about the teacher to me? And I was like, yo, why are you helping this dude? And he talking bad about you. And he was like, don't worry about that, man. He said the Most High God, you know, is going to solve all of that. He said, you see, he need us, right? So what do Torah tell us to do? To help out a brother in need. And that same man stored all that guy's stuff in his garage after them people threw him out. So when I hear stories like this, when I hear brothers like this, they just don't know. And this was like over almost 30 years ago. Almost 30 years ago. To be exact, this was 27 years ago.
Look at that.
This was 27 years ago. You know what I mean? So if that brother's still listening, don't be blinded. Realize who your people are. Get your knowledge. Get your understanding. I'm not telling you not to study. I'm not telling you not to get involved in what you're involved in. But my advice to you is never forget your people. Never forget your people. Never forget it. That's all I have to say, bro.
Thank you very much, Chief. You are always appreciated. You are always honored here. Many of my students may feel like they know you as much as I mentioned you in class. In real time, there's people in the chat that know you by first name. That's how much I speak about you, Chief. So with all due respect, you are loved.
I had to jump in because I couldn't text. I was like, oh, man, I can't text. So hold on. I got to get this off my chest, man. But, you know, Toda Yah, that I felt, like I told you earlier, I fell through a drain storm today. So Toda Yah didn't really have no real damage, but, you know, I still have, like, my tricep, my left tricep is a little bit sore. So I have to see how that's going to be in the morning. You know, they took x-rays, nothing is broken. So hopefully, you know, with the tendon and the muscle and all that nothing tore. So I'm going to get off your stream, and I'm going to let you finish out, man. I just have to get on and say that, my brother.
All right. Thank you, Chief. We'll connect. Brother Ron, thank you also very much. Shalom to you both.
Chief. All right, Ron.
All right, shalom.
All right, shalom. All right, guys, it's been a tremendous bill. We are one. Anaknu echad. We are one. You know, this dialogue makes me think of a question asked in the oral tradition, right? What makes a person a Yehudi, an Israeli? What makes a person an Israelite or a Jew? We say that a person is an Israelite because they are a descendant of Abraham, Yitzchak, or Yaakov. But we say that a person is a Jew because they have the emunah of Avraham Avinu. They have the faith of Abraham. It's in that respect that we learn later on in the book of Esther that when the surrounding pagan nations had converted to our way of life, listen and consider the name that they adopted. The text says, Mit Yahadim, and they made themselves Jews. A Jew is a person, first and foremost, that has immense thanks, praise, and faith in Hashem, faith in the Creator. That is a Jew. An Israelite is a bloodline descendant of Abraham, Yitzchak, or Yaakov. That's an Israelite. But a Jew is a person whose nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida, all of the many different levels of our soul are completely aligned with the will of the Holy One, blessed be He. And so it's in that respect that I'm learning the spirit of anawa, humility, and wanting to be long suffering, arik anpin, having patience. We have to have patience with our people because somebody had patience with us. In order for us to come into the learning that we have right now, someone had patience with us. So if we don't have patience with one another and love for one another, then we're doing a disservice. The same service that caused us to come and stand where we are today is based on those levels of faith, those levels of love, and those levels of brotherly and sisterly service. So it's hard, it's not easy, but we have to do it. And guess what? We're not always right. You know, you may have seen me pointing the finger at our brother Mark. You may have seen him pointing the finger at me, but we can both be wrong and we can both be right about things. But the most important thing to me, when I meet a person, when they tell me that they are a Yehudi, I'm not looking as an ID marker to measure your fringes, your zitziot. I'm not looking for an ID marker when someone tells me they're an Israeli, an Israelite, or a Yehudi, a Jew. I'm not looking for your talit, your prayer shawl. I'm not looking for your kippah, your yarmulke, your turban. I'm looking for your spirit. I want to know, where is the spirit aligned with your words and in concert with what you're saying? Is your walk, and is your talk, your talk? Is your yea, and is your nay, your nay? Are you, in the words of my teacher, are you the message that you bring in? And are you the song that you singing? That's the greatest testimony of who you are as a living embodiment of Abraham Avinu, Abraham, our forefather. So you want to know who the people of God is? It is the people that are doing the will of God. That is the people of God. You want to know who the Israelites are today? Look around and see who is the most oppressed people in the world. Unfortunately, one of the ID markers for Yisrael, the children of Israel, is to consider this. In Galut, in exile, we have always been exiled to the superpower of the day. So, as it was in Egypt of old, we were in Galut, exiled to the superpower of the day. Egypt, Mitzrayim, the 18th dynasty. We can tell you who the pharaohs are. We move forward in history. We go into Bavel, Babylon. We encounter the king, Nebuchadnezzar. Babylon was the superpower of the day. Persia was the superpower of the day. When we were exiled in Greece, the Greek captivity, they were the superpower of the day. Rome was the superpower of the day. So then ask yourself a question. When Israel goes into Galut, when we go into exile, we are always subjugated and we are always an oppressed people. We are not smiling. We are not happy. We are not celebratory, because this is a time of thanks and praise, but this is still a time of our oppression, or as the Tanakh would say, the time of Jacob's trouble. As unfortunate as it may be, one of the ID markers for Israel, you want to know where we're at? Figure out who is the superpower of the day. Who are the oppressed peoples under them? And there you have found the children of Israel. You want to know who the children of Abraham are? Yes, they are the bloodline descendants of Abraham. That's a fact. But I'm here to tell you something controversial, because God calls us his son because we follow his mitzvot, his commandments, his Torah. When we say that Hashem, God, is our father, it's because Aleph Beit, Av, he's the teacher of the house. He's our teacher. We have come into receipt of his Torah. We follow his decrees. Therefore, he's our father. That's why the rhetorical question is asked in Malachi chapter 2, verse 10. Have we all not one God? Have we all not one father? Has not one God created us? Therefore, why do we deal so treacherously by forsaking the covenant? Because if God is our father, then we should be following the will of our Father. We should be following the teachings of our Father. So I say in closing, you know you are of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not simply because of bloodline, but you know that you are the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob because you endeavor to live in and embody the covenant of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And if you are not in line with that, then maybe we need to reach out and grab our brothers and get them there. But until you get there, we'd be hard pressed to use the identity marker that we would like to. So on that note, we have to have patience with each other. We have to have love for each other. No, we're not going to kumbaya. I'm never doing that. No, we're not going to fake it till we make it. I'm not doing that. But my teacher used to always say, the whole world is against us and we're against ourselves. So please tell me, where does that make sense? So be long-suffering with your brother. Because when a white man walks by and step on your shoe, a lot of us let it pass. When a brother walk by and step on our shoe, we want to get in his, it rhymes with pass. But we have no love, no patience, and no humility for each other. The whole world is against us and we are against ourselves. Somebody please make it make sense. May the will of the Holy One, blessed be He, be done. May the real children of Israel stand up. In the words of one of my great teachers, Principal Ben Zavaloon, they could shake hands and feet in the Middle East, but there won't be no peace in that region until the true house of Israel is restored. Baruch Hashem, hallelujah.
Did you know that a recent rabbinical court ruling could rewrite the history of millions of African Americans? The connection goes deeper than you might think. The Obadiah Alliance, a respected Sephardic rabbinical court, has officially recognized the Igbo Jews of Nigeria as descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. This groundbreaking declaration bridges a historical gap that scholars have debated for generations. The ruling draws from extensive historical evidence, DNA research, and preserved cultural practices that link the Igbo people to ancient Israel. The implications reach far beyond Nigeria's borders. During the transatlantic slave trade, a significant number of enslaved people were taken from Igbo territories. Many African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans today can trace their ancestry directly to these Igbo regions. This connection aligns with the biblical text of Deuteronomy 28:68, which some scholars interpret as a prophetic reference to the slave trade. The evidence suggests a profound historical narrative. Many African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans may be descendants of the lost tribes of Israel through their Igbo ancestry. This revelation challenges conventional historical perspectives and opens new avenues for understanding identity, heritage, and cultural connections across continents. Could this ruling reshape our understanding of not just African American history, but biblical history as well? Share your thoughts on this remarkable discovery.
I was personally very amazed by your level. I was not judgmental at all. I did not knew. But what I've seen today in many yeshiva that I put my legs where I went through, many are not at your level at all. And I will really say to all the people who study under you to believe that they have a real master. Because the way you receive us, the way you explain the Torah, the fire you bring through your explanation, it's like a stamp on the fact that you are a real one, a real sage. It will be my honor to share, to talk more about Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. And I really say I'm amazed by the way you succeed to collect and to connect with every type of people, and the way you spread and spread the knowledge. I've never seen that in my life. I have to be honest. And you stay very simple, very humble, and I think many people have to learn from you. And this needed to be said also in front of many people. And you know, when we talk about spirituality, we don't look at the envelope, we look at the soul.
Come on.
It's amazing. So that, Rabbi, thank you very much.
But you dress like a Ben Torah, and it's and people are bothered by that, or like even say this idea of like saying like, why would I not call Rav Zion HaGadol? Why would I not? How many people has he been teaching for how many years? Do you know what greatness that is? To even have the merit to teach Torah to people, that God even gave you, put you in a position in life that's something that people, you know what I mean? People I've met, they're like, yeah, you know, Rav Zion's, I should learn with him, blah, blah, blah. Like I told you, the Hart family, right?
Yeah, amazing family.
Yeah, they're moving to Israel, right? Or maybe they're already here, who knows? But the point is, you're saying that, like, they were inspired by your teachings, right? And there's been so many other people who've been inspired by your teachings. All right, perfect. So again, it's amazing to be here with Rav Zion and just, you know, having this conversation. And the conversation is great. You know, it's also, I also feel like it's a gift for me as well, like, because there's so many deep and amazing insights that Rav Zion brings out, and it gets me thinking. And when I look back on these conversations, you know, on YouTube, you know, I hear a lot of the things he's saying again, and it's like, wow, that was really deep. And the other, you know, I talked to other rabbis too in our community, and they were like, it's like, yeah, I saw the thing you do with like Zion. It's like, and I was like, yeah, it's like, they're like, he knows a lot. You know, and I'm like, yeah. Like, you know, but like they said, he's like, he knows a lot. You know.
Oh, my king.
Shalom, my great brother. And you know, when people say so many great things about you and say that it takes one to know one, so I can reverse all of those things, you know, right back to you, because I've been following you for a long time, and you know, the immense knowledge I learned from you, the respect that I have for you, the honor that I give you, you know, as one of the great teachers in the Israelite community, and not only to the Israelite community, but to our family, wherever they may be found, is one that is second to none. And I do appreciate the work that you've been doing and that you do. And you don't know how much you inspire me, you know. So I wanted you to know that as well, you know, that you have that type of effect on brothers and sisters. You know, you may just been started following me, but I've been following you for a long time. And a lot of what I know actually came from, you know, some things that you had shared that I needed to go and to research deeper. So I want to tell you how much I appreciate you and how much I love you, and how much is an honor for me to even be invited to your platform, my brother. I mean, you know, I don't take this lightly at all. I'm very appreciative of it. And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Shout out to the Aces Hiles. Yeah. Hey, I see you living your best and you're modestly dressed. You got the recipe for success. Girl, you blessed. She sneers. I see you living your best and you're modestly dressed. You got the recipe for success. Girl, you blessed. She sneers. Say, hey, Jehayo, ain't no denial. Been looking for someone like you for a while. Nature in favor, Sarah Imenu, Rebecca Imenu, Leah Imenu, Rachel Imenu. Great things in store, and this is just a preview. Fine, and you fly dressed. That's that new D-Rama. High meat dose, and you all about your commas. Get your cooking skills from your mama, and you get your toughness and your confidence from your Abba. I'm grateful to your folks like like Toda Rabba. I pray we see each other in Olam Haba. The journey been scripted just like Java. Shout out to Haba Java, she sweeter than them blueberry pancakes. Low-key popping in the cut like a Band-Aid. Low-key popping in the cut like a Band-Aid. I see you living your best and you're modestly dressed. You got the recipe for success, girl, you blessed. She snares, she snares, she snares, she snares. I see you living your best and you're modestly dressed. You got the recipe for success, girl, you blessed. She snares, she snares, she snares, she snares. Hey, ain't nothing more fashionable. The opposite is laughable and completely incompatible. I need a lady all mine, who's so fly she gotta conceal her beauty at all times. Worth more than a precious stone, not just on the outside, but also in the home. She the rock and the foundation for the entire affiliation. She ain't gotta show the whole world, no, cause you know she worth the whole world. Yup, so she ain't gotta show the whole world, no, cause you know she worth the whole world. Yup, she's near, 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 she's near. I see you living your best and you're modestly dressed. You got the recipe for success, girl, you blessed. She's near, she's near, she's near, she's near. I see you living your best and you're modestly dressed. You got the recipe for success, girl, you blessed. She's near, she's near, she's near, she's near. So you fine and you fly dress. That's that new D-Rama. High me dose and you all about your commas. You get your cooking skills from your mama. And you get your toughness and your confidence from your Abba. I'm grateful to your folks like Toda Rabba. I pray we see each other in Olam Haba. The journey been scripted just like Java. Shout out to Haba Java. Shorty sweeter than them blueberry pancakes. Low-key popping in the cut like a Band-Aid. Low-key popping in the cut like a Band-Aid. And she ain't gotta show the whole world, no, cause she knows she worth the whole world. Yup, say she ain't gotta show the whole world, no, cause she knows she worth the whole world. Yup, she snares, 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 she snares.
Tearing down idols and we cutting down posts. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. Throwing out crystals, we don't need these stones. And we ain't no gods, that's a job for y'all. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High, Yahuwah. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Yah Israel. Tearing down idols, we cutting down poles. We calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals, and we don't need these stones. We ain't no God, that's a job for Yah. Yeah. cutting down poles. We're calling back Israel to the hell we know. We throwing out crystals. We don't need these stones. And we ain't no gods. That's a job for y'all. Everybody help me say all praise.
All praise to the most.
I can't hear you say.
All praise to the most.
Oh, all praise, all praise.
To the most.
Hey, hey, all praise.
All praise to the God of Israel.
Shalom and welcome to Zion Flex TV. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and share the live stream. Become a member of Zion Lex TV and unlock several hidden features and hidden videos. Also, you can donate to Zion Lex TV at Cash App $ZionLex or via PayPal at zionlex@gmail.com. We also have an online academy entitled Learn Torah Hebrew Academy. Visit us on patreon.com/learntorah. Our Gold Tier membership gives you unlimited access to our special event lectures and our special live movie nights. Our Platinum Tier gives you unlimited access to our Torah class, Kabbalah class, Patriarchs and Matriarchs of the Covenant classes, as well as understanding the New Testament via the Oral Tradition class. Our Diamond Tier gives you unlimited access to all of the previous tiers, as well as our most sought-after class, our Biblical Hebrew course. And finally, our highest tier, our Sapphire Tier, gives you unlimited access to all previous tiers, as well as our highly esteemed rabbinical course. Be sure to sign up today and check your tier membership so as to ensure you're getting access to the classes you desire. Thank you for visiting us here at Zion Lex TV, and now back to our current live stream.
Russia bombs, Russia strikes, Russia kills. When it's Israel, it's often Palestinians killed in attack, Palestinians dead after bombing. We even know that networks and outlets instruct their writers and reporters not to use certain words like genocide, not even to use the word Palestine. In fact, the reporting by the New York Times on the alleged mass rape used by Hamas was so bad that they had to cancel a podcast that they were going to do about it because there was so little to back it up. Now, on the other hand, you have countless stories and allegations of Israelis raping Palestinians. That got totally ignored. It's really fascinating that we hear time and time again about the 40 beheaded Israeli babies, even though there was no evidence of that. And we do have evidence of actually beheaded babies, children with their heads blown off. I mean, we saw a child literally shredded. Various representatives of the Israeli government are never asked about that. They're never asked to condemn Israel's violence. They're never asked to condemn Israel's terrorism. There was a doctor who was tortured to death. If you don't already feel disturbed by the images of Palestinians or the stories of Palestinians, the story of Hind Rajab, who was left in a car to die when she was begging for help, and Israeli soldiers shot up the car and shot up the ambulance trying to rescue this girl. If that doesn't haunt you, I would really urge you to imagine this happening to a Jewish child during the Holocaust. I think that Jews should understand this, if anything, more than other people, because of our history of being targeted, of being otherized, of being compared to vermin, of attempted extermination, of genocide and ethnic cleansing, and of the world looking the other way. That is something that we have to remember. That happened to us. We can't let that happen to other people. That's not justice. That's not how we honor those killed in the Holocaust. Everything that Israel tells you about its founding, about its history, and about its role today is a lie. Some people think, oh, Israel was founded for Holocaust survivors, and then it got greedy and took over too much land and ruined its founding mission, which was to be a safe haven for Jews. The truth is, it was founded on ethnic cleansing. It was not a utopia. I think it's really eye-opening to look at the actual language of early Zionists, because they were calling their banks colonial trusts. They were talking about how natives always resist colonists. In other words, it's not just critics of Zionism who describe Zionism as colonial. It was the Zionists themselves. Israeli society really had a lot of disdain for Holocaust survivors. So they did something very disgusting. They both weaponized the Holocaust to justify their extermination of Palestinians, and they mistreated Holocaust survivors. In fact, they even referred to them as sapon, which means soap in Hebrew. And that was because there was a myth that Nazis turned Jewish bodies into soap. It's not true, but that was a myth. And the important thing is that people thought that was true, and they thought it would be appropriate to call survivors by that name. Israel wanted to create a new Jew that was armed, that was working the land. They were ashamed of the Jews who were killed. They thought that they went to their slaughter like sheep. They were ashamed of Jews who were religious, Jews who were scholars, Jews who were also cosmopolitan. They really did, ironically, internalize a lot of anti-Semitism. There were Zionist bombings in the Middle East that were used to scare people into emigrating out of Iraq, out of Morocco, and into Israel. That's how little they cared about Jewish people. They bombed synagogues in order to get people to leave the Middle East and go to Israel, where they would be mistreated, which is what happened to Mizrahi Jews. Some were basically put into camps. They rejected Yiddish, which was spoken by Eastern European and diasporic Jews, and they also rejected Arabic, which was spoken by Mizrahi Jews of the Middle East. Yiddish is an amazing language, and it's dying out. And the reason it's dying out is because Israel chose to create modern Hebrew, which no one spoke, and they had a lot of disdain for a lot of Jewish culture. So Israel has always been a racist project in many ways, against Palestinians, but even against Jews themselves. And it's been an anti-Semitic project as well. Not only is Judaism obviously much older than Zionism, but there was Christian Zionism from the very beginning, and that was fueled by anti-Semitism and the desire to get Jews out of Europe. Lord Balfour of the Balfour Declaration was a major anti-Semite. Zionism actually requires anti-Semitism to justify its existence. So for Zionists, they don't want to defeat anti-Semitism. They want to use it to strengthen the state of Israel. It's also true to remember that this is not a conflict about religion or culture. Jews and Christians and Muslims lived in peace, in harmony in many areas of the Middle East for centuries. This is about power. This is about land. This goes back to resources. This goes back to the West wanting to have a foothold in the Middle East. This is not about religion. Jewish anti-Zionism has existed since Zionism. A lot of Jews opposed Zionism because they, I would say rightly, predicted it would create anti-Semitism. There's a very rich radical history of Jewish internationalism. During the Spanish Civil War, which many people see as the dry run for World War II, among all the international brigades, so all the volunteers who left their countries to fight in a war against fascism, the most common language spoken was Yiddish, which speaks to this tradition. If we look at so many struggles like the civil rights movement in the United States, there were lots of Jews involved in that. Jewish people were overrepresented in that movement. If you look at South Africa, some of the most active anti-apartheid activists were Jewish. That's the tradition that I'm proud to be part of, not a tradition which weaponizes trauma, tragedy, and the Holocaust to kill more people. Israel is unsustainable. There's no coming back from this. Something new needs to be created. Jews can live side by side with Muslims and Christians in Palestine, just as they have for centuries. If coexistence is so impossible, and if anti-Semitism is so impossible to fight against, how is it that Jews live in Germany today? Germany was where anti-Semitism turned into the Holocaust, and yet somehow Jews are able to live in Germany in safety. But we're supposed to believe that they can't live in Palestine in safety? Palestine is not the country that created Adolf Hitler. Palestine is not the country that created the Holocaust. The biggest threat to Jewish safety is not a free Palestine, it's Zionism. It's essential to challenge the lies and propaganda of mainstream media. You won't see videos like these in the mainstream media, which is why it's so important to support the work of Double Down News on Patreon. And if I do say so myself, the Katie Halper Show.